mercado muere y, por tanto, para competir hace falta algo básico: abaratar los costes de energía, reducir la burocracia y bajar impuestos, cambiar castigos por incentivos y flexibilizar sin imposiciones, sin imponer. Y también, muy importante, garantizar condiciones justas, porque no es justo que el agricultor europeo se le exijan normas que nos exigen a quien producen desde fuera y quieran importar en Europa, y tampoco sería aceptable, ¿no?, que Europa trabajáramos con acuerdos comerciales mientras debilitamos la cadena de producción. Por lo tanto, el Partido Popular Europeo lo tiene clarísimo. El segundo punto, el agua. El segundo reto es el agua, un elemento que se ha convertido en prioridad. Estaba en nuestro programa electoral del Partido Popular, ya no solo español, sino del Partido Popular Europeo, que el agua fuera una prioridad y una política europea, que no solo fuera una política, ¿no?, de cada uno de los Estados miembros, sino que fuera una política europea, cuya realidad zanca cualquier debate. Sin agua no hay regadíos, y sin regadíos Europa perdería el 60% de toda su producción hortofrutícola. Por tanto, perderíamos esa estrategia que antes estábamos hablando. El sur, ¿no?, nosotros no pedimos milagros, pedimos que se entienda que sin planificación hídrica ni infraestructuras no habrá una transición a ninguna parte. Y sobre todo pide coherencia a gobiernos sectarios como el nuestro, el español, el de Sánchez, que recorta trasvases, criminaliza el regadío y se esconde bajo un falso ecologismo que abusa de la propaganda, pero no construye ni una sola infraestructura contra la sequía o las inundaciones. Esa es la diferencia con la Europa liderada por el Partido Popular Europeo, que en menos de un año ya tiene lista la Estrategia Europea para la Resiliencia Hídrica. Más tarde os acompañará Carmen Crespo, que ha sido, juntamente con otros compañeros del Partido Popular Europeo, Nascimento, o sea, con otros compañeros de diferentes delegaciones, exacto, han sido claves en la redacción, en la conformación de esta Estrategia Europea para la Resiliencia Hídrica, que al final lo que busca es hacer frente a la sequía, prevenir catástrofes, evitar fugas en las redes urbanas y hacer un uso eficiente del agua, inteligente, ¿no?, del agua en el campo. Y esto lo podemos hacer, pues, con más innovación. Y un tercer reto, que es una amenaza silenciosa, pero palpable, ¿no?, sobre todo todos los que vivimos en el sur, es el relevo generacional. En algunas zonas de España, y seguro que hoy también lo hablaréis, en los diferentes países de la Unión, solo el 5% de las explotaciones está gestionada por menores de 40 años. Y en Europa, 2 de cada 3 explotaciones no tiene sucesor. Estos son más que síntomas, son señales de alarma. Y no hablamos de atraer jóvenes al campo con eslóganes ministeriales o burócratas, ¿no?, sino que hablamos de si el campo tiene futuro o se convertirá en un paisaje sin vida, y nosotros apostamos para que el campo tenga futuro. Tenemos que crear, por tanto, las condiciones reales y atractivas para que los jóvenes se queden en sus pueblos. Y yo os quiero decir que yo vengo a Saja, España, lo sabe, yo vengo de un pueblecito, yo vivo en un pueblo de 10.000 habitantes, zona vitivinícola, zona de vinos y de cavas, y por tanto tenemos que hacer que el campo tenga futuro, oportunidades para todos los jóvenes, y por tanto eso significa empleo, defender la tierra, crédito, formación, lazos familiares y, por tanto, ¿no?, tener muy claro, pues, ¿no?, la cultura que se lega y, por tanto, sobre todo, dignidad para todos los que vivimos en el campo y para los jóvenes, ¿no?, que queremos que continúen viviendo, pues, en nuestros pueblos. Y yo he escogido continuar viviendo en mi pueblo, ¿no?, porque no se puede pedir a nadie que herede una vida que ni el gobierno respeta, es más, al contrario, criminaliza, como está criminalizando con el sector primario. Y quiero poner un ejemplo, que yo fui protagonista justamente la pasada legislatura. Os acordaréis cómo esta izquierda sectaria la pasada legislatura pretendió que en todas las botellas de vino, de cavas, de cervezas, que sobre todo está afectando a todo el sur, porque somos los principales productores a través de vuestro gran trabajo, querían poner en las botellas de vino, ¿no?, una etiqueta idénticamente igual como la que existe en el tabaco, criminalizando el sector del vino y diciendo, pues, que era, ¿no?, maligno y cancerígeno, cuando el consumo responsable, pues, y hay evidencias, ¿no?, y forma parte de nuestra dieta mediterránea. Por cierto, dieta mediterránea que es patrimonio mundial inmaterial de la humanidad, ¿no? Y por tanto yo fui, por ejemplo, la gran defensora para que eso no fuera realidad y lo conseguimos, solo con 40 votos de diferencia, pero lo conseguimos. Esto significa, ¿no?, la criminalización que está haciendo la izquierda de un sector tan esencial como es la agricultura, en este caso en uno en concreto dentro de la agricultura como puede ser el vitivinícola. Por tanto, yo siempre digo que el campo no es el pasado, sino el futuro, y esta jornada será sin duda una oportunidad perfecta para reivindicarlo y decir que sin campo no hay equilibrio, sin rentabilidad no hay relevo y sin agua no hay nada. Europa lo ha entendido, el Partido Popular Europeo lo ha entendido. Estamos orgullosos del Partido Popular Europeo y termino tal y como también he empezado antes, teniendo un comisario del Partido Popular como es Christopher Hansen, porque el camino, ¿no?, que ha comenzado y que hemos comenzado liderando el Partido Popular esta legislatura tiene la vista puesta pues en el 2040 y en el futuro, pero es un cambio radicalmente, ¿no?, del modelo fracasado de las pasadas legislaturas que estaban, ¿no?, eran modelos muy liderados por la izquierda. Y por tanto, este nuevo modelo que respeta, que es coherente con las necesidades del campo y es ambicioso y lo hacemos sin propaganda ni triunfalismos. Por eso, encarar, ¿no?, el futuro juntos no debe quedarse en un eslogan, sino que debe ser un compromiso, una alianza entre quienes trabajan la tierra, vosotros, agricultores, ganaderos, pequeñas explotaciones y todos los actores del sector primario, y quienes la defendemos desde las instituciones. Porque cultivar es mucho más que hacer negocio, es una forma de estar en el mundo y de construir futuro con las manos. Y ese futuro no lo traerá quien desprecia vuestra voz en Bruselas, ni quien recorta trasvases desde el Palacio Presidencial en España. Lo traerá el partido que ha estado siempre a vuestro lado, con vosotros, porque para el Partido Popular español, el europeo, defender el campo no es una pose, es una convicción. Y las convicciones se defienden como vosotros defendéis la tierra. Por tanto, siempre vamos a estar al lado de los agricultores, ganaderos, pescadores y de todo el sector primario. Nos tenéis para trabajar día a día, codo con codo, desde este inicio de la legislatura hasta que finalice, para que consigamos juntos estos retos y que sean una realidad. Por tanto, muchísimas gracias, especialmente a Saja, pero por supuesto a todos los sindicatos de todos los países del sur, que hoy hemos conseguido esta gran jornada de estar todos unidos, porque yo creo que la unidad hace que podamos continuar trabajando en pro del sector desde aquí, desde el Parlamento Europeo. Por tanto, nos tenéis a vuestro lado y muchísimas gracias.
Paulo.
Obrigado, Duarte. Cumprimento em português a todos os que estão aqui presentes. I will speak in English, but I need to speak first to address in Portuguese to my fellow men, my citizens from Portugal, especially representing CAP, that are of huge importance in the agriculture sector. So, obrigado a todos por estarem cá. É uma honra receber-vos cá no Parlamento Europeu, especialmente num ano em que comemoram os 50 anos e para nós são parceiros fundamentais na definição das políticas europeias. Well, speaking after Dolores Montserrat is quite difficult because she addressed all the important points that we were going to discuss. Now I had to cut a lot of the parts of my speech, but it's an honor for all of us to have her here, especially afterwards the Congress in Valencia, that we elected Dolores Montserrat as our Secretary General of EPP. So it's quite important to have Dolores in this role, and we count on her, as we already counted before, with the support for the agriculture and to make the EPP even stronger in the defense of agriculture sector. So thanks a lot, Dolores, for accepting this task, because it's going to be quite difficult, I can imagine, but you can count with our help and support if you need it. Well, firstly, I have to address all the representatives of the agricultural sector here in Brussels. It's very good to receive you here. I think we are at, sorry, let me just compliment my colleagues MEPs that are already here. So thanks a lot for being here from several member states. Karlo Kessler, just so Karlo Kessler, Gabriel Mato, thanks for coming also so Paco. Okay, okay. But it's very important to have this broad convergence on defending agricultural sector. So I was saying that it's quite important to have you here at this decisive moment as we are preparing the next multi-annual financial framework. We are defending agriculture here in Brussels. We have today a meeting with Commissioner Hansen. He's a good friend of us, good friend of agriculture sector. He's going to present today the simplification package that we asked a lot, that the farmer sector, you asked a lot, you demonstrated and told him and told the Commission that we don't want more Timmermans in the Commission. We want a Commission close to the farmers, close to the production of food, that we, at this time, it's the most important thing. So thanks a lot for your efforts, your sacrifices, and your manifestations here in Brussels, because as I told yesterday, since I started work here in the European Parliament, because I was I was an assistant here in the EP from 2009 to 2019, more or less, and then I went to Portugal, and then I returned to the Portuguese Perm Rep, and I never saw, as I'm seeing now, this time, I never saw the agriculture sector such well defended and such well placed in the central role of all the discussions. So this is a good step forward, and I believe that finally we have this recognition of the importance of agricultural sector in all our European policies. Let me address that. I believe that I will not repeat what Dolores just said. I will only say what I could complement in somehow what was said before. Regarding the water strategy, we, Portugal and Spain, together, we addressed a letter to Ursula von der Leyen, me and my colleague from Portugal, Ana Pedro, and also Carmen Crespo Dias and Juan Fernando Zoido. We addressed the letter asking for an European strategy for the water, because we are the countries that are suffering the most. Our ministers did it in the council also, writing letters, only the agricultural minister on the Mediterranean sector, but also our environmental minister did it with 21 member states, asking the Commission for a strategy to the water resilience. And it's going to be a reality. So it's quite important that finally we have this strategy for the water resilience that will be presented early June. We are working on these reports and opinions here in the Parliament, and hopefully that the proposal of the Commission could take this into account. Secondly, I defend that agriculture is, when we are speaking nowadays with the questions of the strategic autonomy, when we are speaking that we need to reduce our dependencies from exteriors, from third countries, when we are talking about the need for the European Union to create an even deeper internal market, I believe that it's detrimental, fundamental, that we look at agriculture sector as a strong pillar of the security and defense strategy of the European Union. I usually say that we cannot have peace, we cannot have this strategic autonomy if we don't have food on the table of the Europeans. And the responsibles to put food on the table of the Europeans are the farmers. And you show that when we passed the COVID pandemic, that we were the only sector that was working and delivering when all the other sectors were closed. So it's important to the European Union to take into account the importance of agriculture sector as a pillar of security and defense. I organized here in the Parliament an important conference with representatives from the Commission on Defense, representatives from DG Agri also, and we were talking together how we can improve the synergies between security and defense and agriculture sector. And there is quite interesting issues. When we saw this plan from the Commission saying that we need to stockpile, we need to create these survival kits for 3 days. So it's quite important for us, for the farmers, to put or to deliver some kind of support for these goals. And also there is a lot of synergies between the logistical chains, so it's quite important to work together and not compete with each other. At the same time, I would like also to underline that agriculture is not only food, it's security. It's security. Maybe they are not liking what I'm saying. Yeah. They're abandoning the room. Now, the security, territory, tradition, and sovereignty. It's quite important for us to take into account that the European Union must now turn this recognition to real action across several key areas. We need to ensure also for the agricultural sector the fair remuneration. One of the things that we are defending right now here in the European Union, the next multi-annual financial framework, is the question regarding to architecture of the CAP, the two pillars of the CAP. The first pillar of direct payments, because we believe that direct payments could create here a security support for the farmers, stabilizing the market, stabilizing the remuneration, the incomes, and it's quite important to maintain as it is. And secondly, the second pillar, as we have the rural development initiatives and investments that we need to maintain autonomous. And there is a huge debate here in the European Parliament for the cooperation or synergies between the second pillar of CAP, the rural development, and the cohesion funds. We totally understand the idea. We totally understand the need to have these synergies because cohesion policy could create the conditions, for instance, to develop the infrastructures in some rural areas, for instance, access to education, access to health, connectivity, digitalization, etc., because it could help in our strategy to maintain the rural areas active, vibrant, and to fix people there. So it's quite important to use the cohesion funds, but we cannot forget that the rural development is also important for the activities of the farmers. And when we talk about fixing people in the rural areas, we cannot forget that one of the main goals of this is to create the possibility to add more people to the agriculture sector. We need a generational renewal, that's true, but I used to defend the generation renewal, but nowadays I say that we need not a generation renewal, we need to add more people to the sector. It's not only young people, need people, because as Dolores just mentioned, the average of farmers here in the European Union, it's 57 years old, but in Portugal, for instance, is 64. And if you are talking about the strategic autonomy, if we are talking about the importance of the European Union to reinforce this internal market and to lower their dependencies from the exterior, I usually ask, who is going to produce the food that you're going to eat in 5 or 10 years? Who is going to produce it? Labs? I don't think so. We need people to do it, and we need to create the attractiveness to the sector, especially in the rural areas, creating the conditions for them to stay there. Also, one thing that is quite important is it's new ways of practicing the agriculture, digitalization, precision agriculture, the use of resources that we know that are scarcer and scarcer. It's quite important for us to respect these resources and to understand that they have limits. And we have to change in some places the way that we usually do our activity, because we will face this climate change, we'll face these extreme events that all our countries are facing. Sometimes we have lack of water, other times we have excess of water, but the question is, we are creating destruction and the end of some crops, of some activities that could prejudice the food supply chain. The other area that I usually defend here is regarding, and we just approved this morning in Agri Committee, a special procedure to help Mayotte, for instance, from the French outermost region, because they were devastated by cyclone, by Hurricane Chido. So it's quite important for us to be attentive and to create this solidarity and emergency measures that we see that this agricultural reserve, it's not enough to deal with all of these needs. For instance, when we decided the actual CAP, we decided before the pandemic, we decided before the crisis, deflationist crisis, the price, the increase of the prices of the food. We decided before the war in Ukraine, so it's not up to date, so we need to adapt it to this new reality. One other thing is the competitiveness of the agri-food system. We have the presentation since December from the Commission of two important packages. One in the directive of UTP on fair trading practices, and secondly, the cooperation between member states in cross-border UTPs. It's quite important for us to reinforce this cross-border cooperation because we need also to reinforce the single market. We have different legislations between the member states, and it's not fair for the single market for us to compete with each other with one country, one member state that have less or higher legislation regarding these issues. Nonetheless, we need to establish good connections and good relations between the competent authorities within the single market and between the member states in order to avoid these unfair trading practices, because usually what they are doing is to create constraints to the activity of our farmers. And usually, as you know and you feel directly, is the farmers that are the weakest link in the chain, unfortunately. Also, one of the biggest and one of the most important points on the future of the CAP is the simplification. We cannot have the farmers sitting on their desks, filling papers and formularies and reading all the regulations, etc., instead of producing food. It's quite important to have more simplified CAP, to have more direct access to the funds. We need to create the conditions for the farmers to work on what they best known is to work and to produce, and create the possibilities here in the national authorities and even European authorities to have this kind of simplification. We just approved in the last week in the plenary session in Strasbourg our position, the Parliament's position on the next MFF, and we proposed, it was approved, that we need a strong CAP with a resilient budget addressing the needs of the farmers. So it's quite important to see that we are all here together and aligned with the same view regarding agriculture. Let me also highlight 2 or 3 things, and I will conclude because I have to pass the floor to Salvatore, and then I thank Salvatore for being here. With 2 or 3 things that differentiates the farmers from the south of Europe than the others. One of the things is what we are discussing a lot. It's the animal transportation. We have to understand, and this proposal from the Commission is not a good proposal. We have to understand that we have a lot of differences between the member states. We cannot compare transporting a cow or a pig or a chicken in our roads in Portugal or Spain, or transported in Sweden or Norway or Finland. It's quite different. And when we try to harmonize the space in the trucks, the number of hours they can use, or the temperature, this poses a huge challenge and a huge complication for all of us, increasing costs, and with this creating more pressure on the incomes of the farmers. Secondly, the plagues. We have one of the things that Dolors just said, and is the vision for agriculture that the Commissioner hasn't just proposed. We need to start incentivizing and not penalizing the farmers. And we cannot take substances when we don't have alternatives. And one of the things that we are doing still, is prohibit the use of some substances that we usually use in our activity that now are forbidden by the European Union. But nonetheless, and I have to highlight this to you, an FPA report just said that 98% of the products that we produce here in the European Union, agricultural products, 98% has the level or below the level that was accepted of some residues. But 10% of important products have residues higher than the limit, and with substances that we already forbidden here in the European Union. This is why we need these reciprocity clauses. Everything that enters in the European Union has to respect our conditions, or we have to lower our demands. But I believe that it's important to have these reciprocity clauses, because if not, they'll push the price downwards and we cannot compete with what is entering in the European Union. But I will have to say that we are more affected by plagues, we are more affected by the lack of resources, and we need to have this direct relations with the Commission and this specific understanding from the Commission, the European Commission, when designing the next CAP. I will stay for now, hopefully, and available to answer any of your questions. And again, it's an honor to have you here all. And you can be sure that we in EPP, we are defending the agricultural sector as we never did before, and no one ever did before. And we need to continue to have this pressure under the Commission and on the main stakeholders, because they need to respect our work. We need to respect your daily work, and especially they need to talk with the representatives of the sector in order to achieve the best solutions, the best policies, because we need to strengthen our strategic autonomy, and agriculture is for sure one of the main pillars of the European Union project. And we have this saying in Portugal that in house that there is no bread, everyone is fighting and no one has a reason. And it's true. It's true. When we miss to put the food on the table of the Europeans, I believe that it will be the end of the European project. Thanks a lot and have a nice discussion.
Thank you very much, Paulo. I will call Karlo Kessler to come to the table first, and I will pass you the floor already to Mr. Salvatore Di Meo, MEP from Italy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will speak in Italian. Grazie Paolo per questo coinvolgimento. Io porto i saluti del collega Herbert Dorfmann, che purtroppo è impegnato in commissione, e voglio testimoniare con il mio contributo l'importanza di questo appuntamento anche da parte della delegazione italiana del Partito Popolare Europeo, che vede nell'agricoltura uno degli asset geografici e strategici dell'economia europea. Tante le cose che sono state dette da chi mi ha preceduto, io vorrei aggiungerne alcune altre anche ad integrazione. È vero, per troppo tempo l'Unione Europea ha puntato molto sulla sostenibilità, a differenza di altri paesi, soprattutto extraeuropei, che hanno puntato sulla produzione, e questo ha creato delle condizioni di concorrenza sleale. Una sostenibilità che è stata declinata solo da un punto di vista ambientale, quando noi fin dalla scorsa legislatura, rispetto a quella deriva ideologica caratterizzata dalla vicepresidenza Timmermans, abbiamo sempre invece sostenuto che la sostenibilità ambientale deve trovare anche una declinazione sociale, economica e produttiva. Il Partito Popolare Europeo già nella scorsa legislatura aveva sollevato alcune forti riserve rispetto a quelle che erano alcune strategie che sono condivisibili, perché nessuno pensa che si debba ritornare indietro su quello che è uno degli obiettivi condivisibili del Green Deal, ma crediamo che gli obiettivi devono essere concretamente realizzabili e soprattutto non si deve indebolire il sistema produttivo. All'inizio di questa legislatura c'è stato un cambio di paradigma, e questo grazie alla spinta che il Partito Popolare ha saputo dare anche alla von der Leyen, che vi ricordo nella scorsa legislatura era fortemente condizionata dai Verdi, dai Popolari, dai Socialisti e dai Liberali. Oggi abbiamo un contesto diverso che ci fa ben sperare, anche se rispetto ai primi passi dobbiamo andare ancora più in avanti per cambiare completamente l'approccio e far sì che l'agricoltura non sia un settore demonizzato. È stato fatto riferimento al problema della manodopera. Probabilmente bisogna riabilitare il settore agricoltura, e le attività degli agricoltori non sono secondarie a nessuno, non sono lavori di secondo livello, così come purtroppo in alcuni momenti abbiamo contribuito a creare questa distinzione tra settori economici e andando a dare all'agricoltura una considerazione inferiore. Noi oggi siamo consapevoli che se vogliamo aumentare la strategicità, l'autonomia del nostro continente, lo possiamo fare anche attraverso una sicurezza e sovranità alimentare. Io mi occupo anche di difesa e vi posso dire che quando parliamo di sicurezza alimentare io credo che si debba declinare anche in termini di difesa del nostro continente, perché la difesa non può essere interpretata solo nella parte del dominio militare, ma anche quando noi proteggiamo e rafforziamo le nostre infrastrutture critiche, e all'interno di queste abbiamo inserito anche quelle alimentari, noi dobbiamo necessariamente guardare la difesa sotto anche il punto di vista della sicurezza alimentare ed è per questo che dobbiamo insistere per rafforzare gli interventi a favore degli agricoltori che hanno già fatto un gran passo in avanti. Parlo dell'agricoltura italiana ma anche di quella spagnola, probabilmente ancor prima di qualsiasi obiettivo ambizioso noi avevamo già avviato un percorso virtuoso di ottimizzazione delle risorse idriche, di ottimizzazione dei fertilizzanti. Su questo fronte, visto che il settore agricolo, soprattutto dei paesi del Mediterraneo, è particolarmente vulnerabile alla luce dei cambiamenti climatici, è vero, noi abbiamo lanciato un appello forte sulla resilienza e abbiamo anche ottenuto un vero e proprio commissario, tra l'altro sempre del Partito Popolare, Jessica Rosval, e abbiamo anche sollecitato un quadro regolatorio che in aggiunta a quelle che sono le infrastrutture idriche permetta di avere delle nuove colture di tecnica di evoluzione assistita che vanno distinte in maniera chiara e netta dagli OGM, proprio perché crediamo che oggi la ricerca ci dà la possibilità di utilizzare delle colture che hanno una maggiore resistenza sia ai cambiamenti climatici ma anche ai nuovi agenti patogeni che sono sempre più frequenti grazie alla globalizzazione. E su questo fronte, visto che Paolo ha richiamato la necessità di una semplificazione, io vorrei aggiungere che la semplificazione sicuramente europea è richiesta, ma anche i singoli stati dovrebbero far la loro parte e avere per esempio delle regole che siano uguali dappertutto nella nostra Unione. Se parliamo di mercato unico non possiamo non riconoscere che in alcuni momenti questa unicità non c'è. E parlo anche sull'utilizzo di alcune molecole e di alcuni principi attivi. Se sono vietate dall'Europa in uno Stato, lo devono essere anche in altri Stati senza poter ricorrere ad eventuali deroghe che creano delle condizioni di dumping commerciale all'interno della stessa Europa. Parliamo tanto di reciprocità, sicuramente questo è un tema che va affrontato soprattutto rispetto ai paesi terzi, ma lo dobbiamo garantire anche per i paesi europei. Sulla resilienza, qualche settimana fa c'è stato un incontro dove l'Italia ha portato un suo modello attraverso i consorzi di bonifica che hanno condiviso con il Portogallo e con la Spagna la necessità di fare energie comuni proprio per fare in modo che le infrastrutture non solo vengano potenziate, ma addirittura si possa pensare ad un vero e proprio piano di investimenti europeo per delle infrastrutture comuni tra un paese e l'altro. Chiudo con alcune considerazioni sulla capacità dei nostri agricoltori ovviamente di poter avere un posizionamento più forte nella filiera agroalimentare. Questa commissione ha lanciato l'osservatorio prezzi. Credo che su questo fronte dobbiamo tutti lavorare per fare in modo che gli agricoltori possano così evitare gli shock determinati soprattutto dalla grande distribuzione. E lo dobbiamo fare nella consapevolezza di dover così anche rompere alcuni schemi che non abbiamo mai osato fare in passato proprio per che convinti che l'agricoltura potesse così essere un settore di secondo livello. Oggi questo lo dobbiamo fare proprio se vogliamo rafforzare e incentivare il ricorso all'agricoltura e abbiamo davanti una nuova politica agricola comune rispetto a cui non solo pretendiamo che le risorse non vengano diminuite, ma che ovviamente non vengano distolte. È vero, il dibattito oggi ci pone di fronte alla possibilità di una sinergia tra i fondi di coesione e i fondi della politica agricola comune, ma il Partito Popolare Europeo, proprio nell'ultima plenaria di Strasburgo, si è dichiarato contrario alla possibilità di un fondo unico, perché rischiamo di andare così a deviare quella che è la finalità di una politica agricola comune che, vorrei ricordarvi, oggi assorbe ancora un terzo del nostro bilancio, è ancora la prima politica di processo di integrazione europea ed è la politica per gli agricoltori, non contro gli agricoltori. Nella scorsa legislatura questa politica è stata fraintesa ed è stata trasformata in una politica ambientale. Oggi dobbiamo invece lavorare perché ritorni ad essere prioritariamente ed esclusivamente una politica per gli agricoltori. Concludo infine con l'iniziativa che il Partito Popolare ha voluto lanciare dal Congresso di Valencia, proprio perché ci riteniamo essere molto vicini alle esigenze e alle aspettative degli agricoltori e crediamo che anche la costituzione di un'associazione del Partito Popolare Europeo dedicata agli agricoltori possa essere un ulteriore strumento per poter ascoltare meglio quelle che sono le vostre esigenze. Non significa voler sostituire l'interlocuzione privilegiata che abbiamo sempre avuto e continueremo a avere con tutte le organizzazioni nazionali ed europee, ma crediamo di poter dare in questo modo uno strumento a tutti i livelli istituzionali di riferimento del Partito Popolare la possibilità di interagire e di arricchire ulteriormente quella che è l'interlocuzione per definire meglio un processo legislativo che sia esclusivamente a favore degli agricoltori. Io vi ringrazio per aver voluto coinvolgere anche la delegazione italiana del Partito Popolare e vi auguro un buon proseguimento dei lavori, salutando in modo particolare i rappresentanti delle organizzazioni di categoria italiane che con la loro partecipazione potranno confermare quanto per l'Italia l'agricoltura è un settore strategico e vuole essere un elemento di rafforzamento del processo di identificazione europea. Grazie e buona giornata.
Thank you very much, Salvatore. I will, with no delays, to pass the floor to the MEP from Croatia, Mr. Karlo Kessler.
Thank you very much, and thank you really for the organization and for the invitation. I'm definitely pleased to address you also on behalf of our Croatian EPP delegation, but also as the EPP coordinator for the budgetary affairs. And this is the angle that I would like to take today. And we're all here basically because we understand that agriculture is much more than economic activity, that it is also a way of life, and that is a foundation for our food security. Also a cornerstone of Europe's territorial and social cohesion, but at the same time also the cornerstone of the Europeans' MFF. Sometimes this is especially evident, this importance of agriculture in southern countries. And this is why we also gathered like this, leading the delegations of the southern countries within the EPP. The policies that we try to design also in this new mandate must therefore respond to the real challenges that people face on the ground. And these challenges are also different in the southern countries than they are in the rest. Especially by providing strong and reliable financial support as well for agricultural production, but also by cutting the red tape about which it was already spoken about. Just last week, the European Parliament adopted its position on the next long-term EU budget, the multi-annual financial framework, how we called it in this Brussels jargon, beyond the 2027. And this is not a theoretical or abstract exercise, but it is really the first step toward the concrete financial architecture that will guide the EU's priority for nearly a decade. From the Parliament's perspective, the coming MFF negotiations will definitely be challenging, also from the perspective of agriculture, but also crucial. And we expect a thorough debate on the priorities, on the resources, but also on flexibility that we will have in this budget. And our position is quite clear here, and this is that agriculture must remain a top priority in the next MFF as well. We will insist on a transparent and inclusive process, one that guarantees sufficient funding for agriculture, but also for cohesion, while allowing for a more agile response to the current and the future challenges. The common agriculture policy is definitely a cornerstone of the European way of life, but it also represents more than 386 billion euros in the current MFF, which represents nearly 1/3 of the total amount that we have now. But this is, as you all know, not just about maintaining the numbers on paper. It is also about ensuring stability, about ensuring predictability for the millions of European farmers, which basically ensure the food on our tables every day. That is why we are calling for adequate and inflation-adjusted CAP funding, because inflation has significantly eroded the real value of direct payments, and this was quite visible in the current MFF. But also, as it was emphasized already earlier, another part of the whole equation is also the cutting of red tape, so farmers can focus on producing food while directing smart, direct, and flexible investments that also reflect regional differences and the regional realities to swiftly respond to different crises that do exist and do show up. Exactly in these times of crisis, agriculture has proven to be a stabilizing force. The pandemic, the Russian aggression against Ukraine, and now the rising geopolitical tensions, all these events have exposed Europe's vulnerability when it comes to food as well. And that's why we will try to treat food as a strategic issue, not just as a market concern. And this is something that will and needs to be recognized also in the framework of the MFF. It is important to ensure that the sectors really de facto remain competitive, equipped to deal with the global markets and with new technologies, but also to protect European farmers from unfair global competition, especially now in this whole environment of new tariff disputes that are emerging. Finally, we will definitely need to make the budget on agriculture also inclusive, by supporting small-scale farms, encouraging innovation, and also empowering the next and new generations of young farmers. With a more adaptable EU budget, we will be able to deliver. Both cohesion policy and the CAP are vital engines of development, and especially in rural and less developed regions. And we really must not allow for the European project to drift away from these initial proposals and objectives. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that we're really entering into a decade of heightened uncertainty with rising defense needs, with debt repayments, which are also burdening the European budget, and climate shocks as well. But agriculture and cohesion, and you know this the best, are not negotiable. Because today's political discourse, everything that we're witnessing also here in Brussels, often falls in this trap of false dilemmas between food production on one side and environmental protection on the other, between security and sustainability, between rural development on one side and green transition on the other. And let me be clear, I think that the EPP group in total is really clear on this, also in the end of the past mandate, but also now in the new mandate. And this is the fact that farmers are definitely not the problem, as some would like us to believe, but they are solution. They are not a barrier to sustainability, but on the contrary, they are really a key enabler of this transition as well. And in shaping the new MFF, we will also give our best to really preserve these foundations of the whole European project. And Europe, in the end, really can only be secure, can only be competitive if it is really close to self-sufficient in producing food. And I really thank you once again for helping in these big endeavors. Posebno zahvaljujem jasno hrvatskim predstavnicima koji su danas došli ovdje. Nadam se da će biti još prilike da se vidimo danas ili sutra. And I thank you once again for this initiative, and we continue fighting for the rights of the farmers in these new environments, me personally, especially in this framework of the budgetary affairs. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thank you very much, Karlo. That's what the farmers want to hear, and thank you very much, and fight for us in the budget committee, please. The last but not least, Mr. Tsiodras, please, you have the floor, and as we know, and I have to say again, because we have Eli, our Secretary General from from Copa-Cogeca, and it's a great pleasure to have Greece with us and joining this event.
Distinguished, thank you. Distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers and you personally, Paulo, for the invitation to participate in today's event. It is a great privilege to address you on this matter of critical importance. I'm from Greece, as already mentioned, and I know very well what agriculture means. It shapes not only our economies, but our cultures, our traditions, and our way of life. It plays a crucial role for a vibrant rural community, local production, and sustainable resource management. Therefore, we would see agriculture as a strategic sector, delivering food security in Europe and beyond. Today, Southern Europe stands at the crossroads of unprecedented challenges in agriculture and rural development, from climate-induced water scarcity and outdated irrigation systems to the growing frequency of droughts, floods, and heat waves, to geopolitical instability and global supply chain disruptions, which add further pressure, creating a new volatile landscape for agriculture. This complex landscape underscores the necessity for a stronger policy response, one with farmers and agri-cooperatives at the center, and one of which prioritizes European food sovereignty, fosters the resilience of our agri-food sector, and focuses on its long-term competitiveness and sustainability. Action is needed now, and the post-2027 CAP will be instrumental in delivering the long-term solutions that will strengthen our agricultural resilience. Last week, this House and our political group demonstrated leadership by adopting our position on the next MFF. And the message is crystal clear. We call for an increased and dedicated budget for the CAP in the next MFF and safeguard from any possible cuts. Secondly, the next CAP structure matters. It's not a mere technicality. Thus, we have clearly expressed our clear opposition to the idea of integrating the CAP into a single fund for each member state. We have to maintain its integrity and commonality, as well as the coherence and interconnection between its first and second pillar. It is critical that we place greater emphasis on pragmatic initiatives rather than restrictive constraints, ensuring that support is directed towards farmers who actively engage in food production, particularly farmers in regions with natural constraints. When it comes to the impact of climate change, farmers are on the front line of this phenomenon. They are our natural allies in the path towards achieving our climate objectives and targets. We need to support them in the path towards decarbonization. But in order to do that, we have to understand the concerns of the people in rural communities and come up with solutions that make a real difference. While the CAP includes provisions and resources to address extreme weather events or sudden and unforeseen risks, these resources are insufficient to deal with increasingly frequent extreme weather events and their effects on local food production. Therefore, we are calling for a new fund dedicated exclusively to cover production losses caused by the climate crisis. Additionally, water access must be recognized as a fundamental issue for Europe's food sovereignty. More than 44% of the EU's agricultural areas are already exposed to seasonal water stress. The CAP should continue to support irrigation projects that enhance water use efficiency while ensuring that farmers can access the necessary resources to maintain their production in the face of a changing climate. Furthermore, We must explore additional funding sources for natural disasters preparedness, climate change mitigation, and biodiversity protection. This will be critical to ensure that farmers are supported in the face of extreme weather events and that Europe's agriculture remains sustainable in the long term. Alongside the CAP, the next MFF must ensure that we can continue to support the rural development goals of the cohesion policy, which has a critical impact on rural areas and it contributes to the social, economic, and territorial cohesion of Europe. At the same time, we must simplify the regulatory framework to reduce unnecessary bureaucracy. My colleagues have already referred to this issue. Investment and innovation are also an integral part of our efforts to build the sector's resilience. Across Southern Europe, many small-scale farmers face barriers to adopting new technologies, particularly digital skills and access to training. This limits their ability to leverage the innovations that could improve resilience and productivity in the face of unfavorable weather conditions. It is essential to increase investment in innovative technologies and ensure that farmers have access to training that enables them to use these tools effectively. And I want to pay tribute to the extraordinary work my Greek compatriots from GAIA Epicherin are doing on smart farming. Their project has the potential to transform the agricultural sector in Greece and beyond. Over the programmatic period 2014-2020, and as part of Horizon 2020, they allocated 1 billion to fund 180 multi-actor projects for agriculture, forestry, and rural development. Horizon Europe money, 9 billion, is also allocated to research and innovation in the areas of food, bioeconomy, natural resources, and environment. But we should go beyond that in order to ensure that research and innovation is developed also with farmers and their communities from the outset. Further funds should also be channeled towards building the bridge between innovation and end users, with the aim of helping them develop local solutions to current issues, such as boosting organic farming and using water resources more effectively. EIB should continue having an even more prominent role in this area in terms of leveraging private capital. This includes equipping the workforce with the digital skills necessary for the future of farming, including expertise in informatics, robotics, meteorology, and biotechnology. Ladies and gentlemen, we must ensure that European food security, food safety, and food sovereignty remain non-negotiable. Recent findings from the Eurobarometer survey show that 94% of Europeans believe securing a stable food supply is essential. This call for continued efforts to ensure that European farmers are adequately supported and that the agricultural sector remains competitive. Today's event presents a critical opportunity to shape insights, discuss challenges, explore innovative solutions, and undertake concrete initiatives that will create a resilient and competitive agricultural sector that supports not only Southern Europe, but also Europe's broader strategic autonomy. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tsiodras. And following the program with the 6 European countries of the southern countries, we will hear Mr. Álvaro Mendonça Moura, President of the Portuguese Farmers Confederation. One voice, one goal.
Thank you. And first of all, good morning to everybody. Thanks for the members of parliament to attend this meeting. A special thanks to Paulo Cabral for organizing this meeting. We're very grateful. It's a great honor and a deep sense of responsibility for me to speak at this meeting, which brings together the countries of Southern Europe around a common cause, a cause clearly and decisively affirm the central role of agriculture and rural life in the future of our region, and if I may say, in the future of Europe itself. Southern countries may have different histories, different cultures and farming structures, but we share deeply similar challenges. And it is precisely this shared reality that brings us together today, to work as one with a unified voice to address issues that transcend borders and nationalities. And let me start by saying, it's very satisfying to hear what we heard today by members of parliament. It's a change of climate. We had not heard this for many, many years. So, in fact, we are at a moment where the political climate has changed in Brussels. And Dolors has stressed that very much. But make no mistake, not just, it was not only the last commission that kind of pushed us aside just to give the voice to the radical environmentalists. It came well before that. It's a long history of pushing us aside, of putting agriculture at the second level. It was not just the last commission. So let's put this in perspective. The political climate has changed for the better in what we are concerned, but nothing is guaranteed yet. It's very nice to hear these positive positions and the preoccupations with the agriculture and the forestry. We need to see the reality on the field. We need to see that translated into in rules. We have to see that translated in money. And the first point, and we have really to be very pragmatic. The first point is the multi-annual financial framework. Let's make no mistake. That is the big battle now. So let's not disperse too much of our attention. We have to concentrate on what is the priority now, and the priority is the multi-annual financial framework. We cannot accept in any form a mixing of this verb, of the amount of money we have for the common agricultural policy in any kind of unique fund. In any kind. And it's very risky even to talk about just preserving the first pillar. It's a very risky game if we go through that pattern, because we don't know what will happen to the second pillar. So let's focus on our priorities. And to my mind, and that applies to all of us, we have to put all the pressure on the negotiations, on the multi-annual financial framework, and preserving the amount of money for the common agricultural policy corrected by the inflation. That is the condition to have the common agricultural policy as the main instrument supporting farmers' incomes and encouraging investment in the sector. We need a stable budget, a robust budget, a budget that gives us stability and previsibility. We need to have previsibility for the next couple of years. We cannot continue to have rules that change every second year. Nobody can make investments if we don't know for sure what the next 7 years will bring us. So, robust budget, previsibility, rules that really not change, but a budget that looks into the future. We have to think not just what we have and how we recover because of the consequence of inflation. We have to look into the future and see what kind of agriculture do we want to have in 10, 20 years in Europe. That should be our aim. And we cannot sit just quietly on our corner because the world is not stopping. The world is moving. Other countries are moving. We must remain competitive. And we have to have the courage to be competitive with the outside world. And that implies not closing ourselves. But that also implies that we have to be adamant in saying that, yes, we want to be competitive, but for that we need reciprocity. But the message should not be, let's protect ourselves. No, let's open ourselves, let's modernize, let's invest in innovation, new technologies, but adamant about reciprocity. What I have to do here, others have to do when they produce outside of Europe. Otherwise, there is no possibility to be competitive. So the question of reciprocity, in my view, is essential. And then concerning the southern countries, there is obviously a point that is unavoidable to put at the front line, and that is water. That's water. I have a personal experience myself, and that's why I say the problems did not only arise from the last commission. I was ambassador here 15 years ago, and we had a national plan of dams. It was one of my more difficult fights to get the commission to allow us to build dams because it was environmentally negative. Some birds would die, or some, I don't know what kind of reptiles would also die, and so on. Yes, they would, but the advantages would be much bigger. And we have to stress that this strategy, we are now talking about the water resilience strategy, really goes forward and takes into account the special needs of the southern countries. Without water, and we have to think about the climate change and what that will imply for our needs of water. Without water, we cannot survive, namely the southern countries of Europe. And that the situation is not the same as in the countries of the north of Europe. We are not in the same situation because of climate reasons. And the Commission has to take that into account. Water, water, water. It's a sine qua non condition. So we have to put this water resilience strategy also at the top of our priorities. One more point I would like to stress, because then of course, I would like very much to hear each one of the different organizations, is the question of simplification. We have to simplify the rules of the common agricultural policy. And once again, it's not simply a question of saying that we will simplify. We need concrete results. It's very nice. I heard for many years politicians talking about simplifying things. And not just in agriculture, by the way, in other sectors of life. What we get? More rules, new rules. Where are the simplification? The fact is that the agricultural people are spending less and less time on the land and more time in front of computers trying to fill in the forms. That's the reality, I think, for all of us, and that has to change. So I could go on for many minutes, but I really want to concentrate on these points. First, the multi-annual financial framework, and there I think we should be completely united and ready to do whatever it takes. I mean, whatever it takes to protect our budget and the separation from any specific fund that may be created. Then water, and the notion of competitivity, reciprocity, that's what it is. And if we are given the reciprocity we need, then we should be open. Then we should be open and we should go abroad and try to conquer the markets abroad. That's the future for us also. To survive, we have to grow. We have to have the courage to go out and find new markets. That's the agriculture of the future. Thank you very much, and all the best for you.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now I will ask to the MEPs, thank you very much for being in the floor. But now I have a difficult, very difficult task. Right now I will call first the Italian delegation, Mr. Fini, Mr. Prandini, Mr. Di Brondello, to have a seat because I have to put one more chair here because I only have 6 chairs. Roberto, traz aí uma outra cadeira. Mr. Di Brondello. Mr. Prandini. Take your seats. And now I will put here by age Mr. Barato. Luis Mira will be here in the middle, more or less. It's Monsieur Jakopovich. Mladen, please. It's Mr. Dálissac. And it's missing, it's not Mr. Tsiodras anymore. It's have a seat over there. You have a seat here because I have to put them close. Yo fuera. Have a seat here. Wait, because I will take a chair. No. And now I will moderate from here. Thank you very much all to being here. It's quite a pleasure to have. Because we are 6 countries at 8 organizations, so we have all seated. We have, if you can say, all the southern countries organizations represented, and it's very important to hear what you have to say about what unites us. I think it's most of the things, and why we have to work together. To go by and to follow the program by alphabetic order, I think I will pass the floor to Croatia first, to Mr. Mladen. Please tell us what you think and what you feel, and about this union of the Southern countries organizations, and what for you it's the most important thing that we have to follow and we have to do right now. Thank you, Mladen.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable member of European Parliament, dear participant, ladies and gentlemen, dragi predstavnici hrvatskih poljoprivrednika. Álvaro told me more or less all my speech, but first of all, I want to thank for this opportunity today. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to MEP Karlo Ressler, who just left, and his team, of course, of strong organization support of bringing Croatian farmers to this event. Today, we already heard more or less everything what is trouble in whole Europe, especially in Southern Europe. But if I must say a few words, I will say that we need to rise to address a critical issue affecting to our agriculture sector, more or less, of climate change, unsecure market, of course, ongoing war. The current situation asks a comprehensive and transparent approach within an upcoming MFF. The framework must prioritize measures that enhance the resilience of our agriculture sector. We firmly believe that defense policy, Rearm Europe plan, and their budget should not aim at the expense of food security. Food must be recognized as a strategic asset, a weapon in its own right, integral of our collective resilience. We spoke every time of Treaty of Rome in 1957. Our goals have been clear: increase agriculture productivity, ensure fair living standards for farmers, stabilize markets, guarantee food security, and maintain reasonable prices for customers. This objective remains as relevant today as they were then. It is our duty to ensure that every European citizen has access to nutrition, affordable food, which can only be achieved through well-planned, adequately funded food security measured at European level. I propose that all member states undertake a series of critical measures. First, boost domestic production and strengthen local supply chains to reduce dependence of import, especially of time of crisis. Álvaro spoke a lot of reciprocity. That's crucial for European farmers. Second, create reserves and storage facility for essential foods such as grains, oils, dairy products to ensure minimum level of availability. Third, enhance capacity for food production and processing within our country to meet domestic demand reliability. Four, develop comprehensive, secure plans with local authority, civil society, stakeholders for rapid response during emergency. And last but not least, accelerate innovation, boosting the digitalization, artificial intelligence, and the bioeconomy to modernize agriculture and ensure stability. Victory in this war demands a comprehensive approach. So we need information to guide our action, food and water, of course, to sustain our people, energy to power our efforts, and defend ourselves. So we are totally against single fund proposal and call for higher CAP budget to achieve all of these, I will say, critical goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mladen. Anestis, it's your time right now, and tell us all about our union and what you think about in Greece and in the southern countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, esteemed colleagues. There was initial discussions 6 months ago with the initiative and endeavor by the Portuguese colleagues, and we were happy to participate on that. We believe that Southern Europe faces growth challenges. So climate change reshapes landscapes, water scarcity threatens crops, and outdated infrastructure hold back growth. Extreme weather events such as droughts, floods, and heat waves are becoming the new normal, testing agricultural resilience for sure. So, however, these challenges are not unique to southern countries. Across Europe, rural communities face similar pressures, underscoring the need for collective solutions that go beyond the national boundaries. To secure the future of European agriculture, we must rethink our approach. It is not just about addressing symptoms, it's about building resilient systems that withstand crisis and adapt to change. This means embracing sustainable practices, digital innovation, and smarter resource management, not only transforming how we produce, but also how we protect it. My focus today will be to explore how investment, digital connectivity, and knowledge sharing can drive this transformation. These are not just regional needs, they are European priorities that demand action and cooperation at every level. One of the biggest barriers to modernizing European agriculture is the digital divide. Despite technological advancements, many farmers, especially in rural areas, still lack access to basic digital tools. This is not just about technology, it is about opportunity and democracy. Farmers without connectivity miss real-time data, advisory services, and market connectivity, making it harder to optimize irrigation, predict risks, and meet sustainability goals. Addressing this gap requires more than infrastructure investment. It demands a strategic commitment to digital inclusion, ensuring that every farmer, regardless of the location, has access to the technology and support needed to sustain and compete. This means not only building digital networks, but also equipping farmers with the skills to use them effectively. Overcoming this digital gap is not about catching up. It is about creating equal opportunities, where innovation and growth are accessible to all. It is about empowering rural communities to compete, adapt, and thrive in a digital world. Addressing this digital divide is not only the beginning. For digital transformation to take root to European agriculture, we need more than just about digital strategies. We need collective investment and strategic planning. The fragmented nature of agricultural landscapes and high technology costs make it challenging for individual farmers to adopt innovations. This is where shared investment becomes crucial, so public and private partnership can provide the infrastructure to bring digital tools to every farm, regardless of the size and location. It is time to move beyond promises and focus on concrete actions, shifting from pilot projects that the MEP from Greece mentioned to large-scale deployment. It is really essential. And we talk about digital platforms that connect farmers with real-time data, climate alerts, and market opportunities. Shared IoT infrastructure with weather stations and soil sensors and publicly governed solutions for data security and accessibility. These investments are not just about technology. They are about creating resilient agricultural systems that can withstand crisis and adapt to change. And indeed, digital transformation in agriculture has been discussed for so long. Now is the time to turn words into action, investing in real infrastructure that empowers every farmer and cooperative and community to thrive in a rapidly evolving market. At the same time, the promise of digital agriculture cannot be realized if farmers remain trapped in bureaucracy. Excessive paperwork, fragmented databases, and incompatible systems slow down processes, increases costs, create barriers for those seeking support. Recognizing this, the European Commission has prioritized simplification to streamline agricultural policies and reduce administrative burdens. But we need to be sure to respond if this time is going to work actually. Interoperability is key to achieving this vision. Seamless connection between digital systems can transform how data is shared and processed, linking agriculture databases, monitoring systems, and governmental portals in real time. This could allow farmers to access subsidies faster, comply with CAP requirements with fewer constraints, and receive instant updates on climate risk and market opportunities. To us, the goal is clear: to create an administrative framework that empowers farmers to focus on sustainable production and growth. So making simplification a reality will ensure that bureaucracy no longer stands in the way of innovation and resilience in agriculture, in European agriculture. Digital tools, as they become more accessible, have a significant in enhancing climate resilience. European farmers encounter increasing risks that jeopardize productivity and food security. Therefore, building resilience against these threats necessitates proactive planning and effective resource management, not just adaptation. Advanced digital solutions like real-time climate monitoring, predictive analytics, and precision farming help farmers anticipate weather changes, optimize water usage, that we already mentioned, and protect crops from extreme events. Early warning system can mitigate impacts of floods, frost, and heat waves, giving farmers the time and information to act. Climate resilience is not just a local need. It should be a European priority. Investing in smart technologies and risk management tools empowers farmers to safeguard their livelihoods and ensure food security across Europe. With the right support, we can build a stronger, more resilient agriculture sector ready for the challenges ahead. The benefits of digital infrastructure in the agriculture area are already visible. In our country, Greece has taken decisive steps with a centralized digital platform for smart farming, bringing the digital divide and enhancing adaptation to climate change. Covering over 2 million hectares, more than 70% of the country's agricultural land, this platform empowers farmers with real-time data and predictive analytics, turning information into actionable decisions. Funded by EU's RFF, the Greek initiative monitors soil and weather in real time to optimize fertilization, irrigation, and prevent crop losses. Advanced analytics help farmers assess climate risks, while simplified administrative processes reduce bureaucracy and cost for CAP applications. Public governance ensures data, security, and neutrality, protecting farmers' benefits. This platform is not just a technological solution, but an innovation approach to farming. By providing greater access to information and lowering barriers to technology, Greece has developed a model that enhances productivity, supports climate adaptation, and strengthens local economies. It demonstrates actually that strategic investment in digital infrastructure can make agriculture smarter, more resilient, and more competitive. Greece's example demonstrates that digital transformation in agriculture is not only achievable, but also scalable. To extend the benefits throughout Europe, a unified framework is necessary. It is proposed that an enhanced pan-European platform could serve as a digital backbone, linking farmers with real-time interoperable systems and cross-border advisory services. Such an initiative would enhance climate security, streamline CAP compliance, and improve market access by integrating digital solutions across member states. Seamless data exchange would enable better decision-making, cost reduction, and optimized resource use. The goal is not centralization, but strategic coordination, a network that allows innovations to scale efficiently, supporting farmers of all sizes. Achieving this vision requires targeted investment and political commitment. Strategic funding can provide the infrastructure needed, but investment alone is not enough. Skills development must accompany technology adoption, ensuring that farmers, advisors, and cooperatives can fully leverage digital tools for resilience and competitiveness. The path forward for European agriculture is clear. It is time to move from isolated successes to a connected future where technology, skills, collective action drive sustainable growth. Greece Digital Transformation Project can set a living example of how innovation and strategic investment can reshape agriculture. Now Europe must build on this momentum, extending these benefits across borders through a unified digital framework. To achieve this, targeted investment and strategic commitment are essential. Digital infrastructure must be prioritized within agriculture policy, not as a standalone initiative, but as the backbone for modern and competitive farming communities. The vision for us is simple: a connecting agriculture sector that it is prepared for the challenges of tomorrow. Now is the time to build it together as one Europe. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Arendt. With no more delays, remember that in the afternoon we just have 3 minutes for our speech to the commissioner. Mr. Fini, please. You have the floor right now. I'm changing more or less the program to don't put the Italian delegation speak all at the time. And sorry, Dálissac, Arnold, you will wait a little bit to rest.
Sì, io credo che oggi sia una giornata molto importante perché le organizzazioni agricole dei paesi del Mediterraneo si riuniscono. È una giornata molto importante perché abbiamo problemi comuni, abbiamo strategie comuni da mettere in campo, ma anche perché abbiamo una comunanza molto importante di produzioni ad alto valore aggiunto. Aggiungo anche caratteristiche aziendali molto simili, piccole, medie e grandi aziende. Quindi, e ultimo, forse come dire, non meno importante, siamo stati abituati anche negli anni scorsi a vedere un dialogo molto serrato tra i paesi del nord, quando invece serve e servirà un dialogo molto serrato per i paesi del Mediterraneo, perché per l'appunto abbiamo delle peculiarità diverse rispetto agli altri, quindi abbiamo delle necessità non per fare delle guerre, ma per cercare veramente di dare maggiore valorizzazione alle nostre produzioni e ai nostri territori rurali. Io credo che le strategie vadano messe in campo a partire dalla crisi climatica, a livello di siccità, alluvioni, fitopatie, non ci siamo fatti mancare nulla negli ultimi anni, però abbiamo anche visto pochi strumenti che ci sono stati dati per cercare di far fronte a tutto ciò. Anzi, abbiamo visto anche un accanimento contro l'agricoltura. Quindi, partendo dal tema dell'acqua, dove abbiamo chiesto e speriamo anche di ottenere una strategia che sia europea, perché il tema dell'acqua non può e non deve essere solo dei paesi del Mediterraneo, che sicuramente è un problema enorme, ma deve essere all'interno di una strategia comune. Quando parliamo di acqua parliamo di siccità, come dicevo prima, ma parliamo anche di alluvioni, disastri che non avvengono solo dalle nostre parti, ma avvengono anche in altre parti d'Europa. Quindi è chiaro ed evidente che dobbiamo anche cercare di mettere e scaricare a terra con delle politiche, ma anche con delle risorse, una strategia per il bene più prezioso che credo abbiamo tutti quanti noi. Lo abbiamo in agricoltura, ma ovviamente anche a livello di acqua potabile è un bene fondamentale. Credo che il tema degli invasi non può essere affrontato in una sola maniera. Sicuramente occorrono grandi invasi che riescano anche a trattenere le acque quando ci sono acque in eccesso, ma anche piccoli e medi invasi. Occorre una strategia integrata, come anche il tema legato al riuso delle acque. Le acque noi buttiamo a mare tantissima acqua che potremmo riutilizzare per i nostri campi. Quindi credo che vada messo in campo davvero una strategia che sia comune, come del resto, dicevo prima, anche il tema legato alle fitopatie. Sulle fitopatie abbiamo assistito a tantissimi insetti alieni o fitopatie sconosciute che sono avanzate negli ultimi anni e che ci hanno creato dei grandissimi problemi di rese produttive. Senza una resa produttiva adeguata l'azienda agricola non fa reddito, se l'azienda agricola non fa reddito chiude e soprattutto senza un adeguato reddito i giovani non entrano in agricoltura. Quindi dobbiamo cercare di invertire la rotta, anche qui con degli strumenti, ma aggiungo, prima di togliere una molecola dal mercato, come è stato fatto in questi anni perché è ritenuta nociva, dobbiamo cercare di trovare l'alternativa, perché altrimenti se noi togliamo tutte le molecole e non mettiamo un'alternativa, l'unico risultato che otteniamo è che l'azienda agricola chiude. Come del resto anche il fatto di allineare tutti quanti diciamo, i procedimenti, i principi attivi a livello comunitario, non possiamo vedere degli stati che possono utilizzarli e altri no, ci deve essere una regola comune per tutti gli stati membri. Poi c'è il tema legato a proposito di strumenti delle NGTs. Abbiamo perso anni inutilmente a dibattere se le NGTs erano OGM oppure no. Questo è un dibattito inutile che ci ha portato lunghi con i tempi, quando invece noi potevamo già oggi avere degli strumenti per poter far fronte alle fitopatie, per far fronte alla siccità e al tempo stesso riducendo gli input esterni, sia acqua che utilizzo della chimica. Quindi anche questo è un procedimento che sul quale bisogna accelerare. Ultimo tema, gestione del rischio. Anche qui potevamo avere degli strumenti, non sono stati adeguati, non sono stati utilizzati. Dobbiamo lavorare per il futuro affinché ci sia un sistema assicurativo che ci possa garantire comunque un reddito. Dopodiché dobbiamo anche migliorare quello che è il trasferimento. Abbiamo a disposizione tanta innovazione, però non tutti gli agricoltori ne possono fruire, vuoi sicuramente per i costi, ma anche perché c'è scarsa conoscenza. Dobbiamo trasferire di più e meglio quelle che sono le conoscenze e lo possiamo fare anche noi come corpi intermedi, come associazioni. Io credo che sicuramente è stato detto da più parti che è cambiata l'aria a livello europeo, è cambiato il paradigma e questo io credo che sia inequivocabile. Anche noi stiamo riportando nei nostri paesi questo cambiamento rispetto al passato, ma soprattutto però io credo che non dobbiamo commettere gli stessi errori che sono stati commessi in passato, perché se noi non siamo conseguenti, se noi non passiamo dalle parole ai fatti, rischiamo di andare dai nostri agricoltori a dire guardate che adesso va meglio, poi dopo quando arriviamo ai fatti invece si ritrovano con un pugno di mosche in mano. Quindi bisogna assolutamente cercare anche di essere conseguenti. Lo dico soprattutto al decisore politico, lo dico soprattutto all'istituzione europea che dovrà affrontare alcune tematiche fondamentali nei prossimi mesi. Mi riferisco al tema del budget della PAC, sul quale non possiamo continuare a dire, come abbiamo sentito, puntiamo sull'agricoltura, l'agricoltura è fondamentale, le proteste dei trattori sono servite e poi dopo magari vediamo ridotto il budget della PAC. Cioè si dice una cosa e se ne fa un'altra, questo non può succedere. Come del resto la creazione di un fondo unico dove andiamo a mettere la PAC che ha delle peculiarità diverse, l'agricoltura in generale ha sempre avuto delle peculiarità diverse e che vanno affrontate in maniera diversa, non la possiamo ricondurre all'interno di un fondo unico e soprattutto non possiamo, non dobbiamo lasciare la facoltà agli Stati membri di poter fare tutto quello che loro pare, comprese anche le risorse, perché altrimenti viene meno quello che è lo spirito europeo. Quindi io credo che dobbiamo sicuramente mettere in campo degli strumenti, ma soprattutto l'altro tema, oltre al budget della PAC, non dobbiamo commettere gli errori del passato rispetto al fatto di non dare degli strumenti agli agricoltori, acqua, NGTs o altro, per potersi difendere dalla crisi climatica. Io credo che l'agricoltura sia comunque fondamentale per la sostenibilità economica, ambientale e sociale dei territori. I territori rurali vanno valorizzati maggiormente. L'80% della superficie europea è composta da territori rurali e quindi vanno tutelati maggiormente, comprese le aree più svantaggiate, comprese le aree più fragili che sono le aree interne, e a livello di paesi mediterranei, a livello di montagne e di colline ne abbiamo tante e sono aree più fragili che vanno tutelate. Quindi quello che dobbiamo chiedere come paesi del Mediterraneo è davvero di passare dalle parole ai fatti. Servono atti concreti che noi misureremo già dai prossimi mesi. Grazie.
And now you have the floor, Monsieur Arnold Dálissac.
Thank you, Duarte. Dear members of the European Parliament, dear Pedro, Direttore, dear Luca, dear Cristiano, dear Anestis, dear Mladen, dear Álvaro, thank you for the large overview you have done at the beginning of this meeting. It's not the president of the World Farmers Organization who is speaking in front of you. It's only the vice president of FNSEA, but I'm very glad to be with you. I forgot to say a big hello to Eli, the General Secretary of Copa-Cogeca. For me, it's a meeting with friends. I know some of you since the former millennium. It's more than friends. I have the impression that it's a family celebration. The FNSEA has an ambition for the European Union and its agriculture. Agri-food sovereignty must be considered a strategic issue. This also applies to Mediterranean agriculture. Europe must develop its capacity to produce, to supply food to its citizens, and to contribute to the global food security. To achieve this ambition, the first condition is the economic profitability of farms. Production and supply chain are weakened by the impact of climate change, which are causing yields to fluctuate. Mediterranean farmers, like their colleagues, are facing a general increase in costs, fertilizer, energy, fuel, electricity, which has a significant impact on production costs. Furthermore, labor is quite expensive. So this situation is encouraging some farmers to reduce the area under cultivation. Mediterranean sectors are seeing their profitability erode by the double penalty: reduced production and increased cost. Moreover, the competitiveness of local sectors is being severely tested by competition from products from third countries. And I will be more strong than Álvaro. It's not only the reciprocity that we are needed in the trade agreements, it's the mirror measure. Here again, the remuneration of farmers will be key. The Commissioner quickly launched a number of projects on the single common market organization, and we support this proposal. On reform of the wine for the wine sectors and on unfair practice, trade practice. Farmers are entrepreneurs. Fair remuneration for farmers is a source of sustainability, economic, and therefore environmental and climatic for their farm. That's why resilience is key, and investment will be needed as much as an adequate and stronger insurance scheme to face climate and economic challenges. Second condition, it will be necessary to have access to the good means of production and the best toolbox. My colleagues have or will already highlight many important elements concerning the management of irrigation and water storage. In certain regions, therefore, is competition for water to strengthen the resilience of farms. But I would like to stress the need to preserve our main means of production: land. Indeed, in Mediterranean areas, competition for land is very strong. Cities, home for vacation and tourism are putting pressure on agricultural land. In Occitanie, the region of Montpellier and Toulouse, for example, the numbers of translation declined in 2023 of 6%. Average land price remains stable or even increase. There is in particular, a growing demand for land with high agronomic and irrigate potential. The price is multiplied by 3 in this case, and the pressure is greatest on the coast and around major cities, Montpellier, Toulouse, Nice, for example, where prices are skyrocketing despite a rather gloomy context in agriculture. This scarcity of arable land makes it difficult for young farmers to establish themselves. This is not a EU scope, but it's a point of vigilance that we must maintain at the level of member states and our regions. The FNSEA developed a partnership with other stakeholders from the rural area. And from our point of view, it's important to manage land rather than leaving it in the end of a totally liberal market, and therefore speculative in certain cases. I forgot to mention that in the south part of France, these last years, the average income of the farmers is only 30% of the average income of the farmers in the rest of France. In a nutshell, no miracle cures or ready-made recipe, but a mix of individual and collective solution with more than a drop of European loan, I will say a significant European loan. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Arnaud. And now we'll go directly right now for the Italian delegation. Mr. Di Brondello, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much to all our friends. Being here today is a very good occasion for discussing the similar problem we have in the southern country of Europe. So I really want to thank all the organization. Thank you very much, Duarte, for the organization of today. Continuo in italiano. Sicuramente i paesi del sud Europa hanno delle sfide e dei problemi molto simili al giorno d'oggi e quindi è importante essere qui oggi e cercare di trovare il modo di parlare magari con una voce sola per risolvere questi problemi. Confagricoltura è molto preoccupata non solo per il cambiamento climatico che impatta sicuramente in modo molto forte, molto particolare su tutti i nostri paesi, ma anche per le combinazioni di sfide geopolitiche, ambientali e economiche che la nostra agricoltura sta vivendo di questi tempi. Direi che tutti i nostri colleghi che mi hanno preceduto hanno sottolineato il fatto che c'è una forte opposizione di tutto il mondo agricolo e quindi anche nostro sull'ipotesi presentata dalla Commissione di fare un fondo unico nel quadro finanziario pluriennale che accorpi fondi di coesione, fondo per la pesca, fondo sociale, fondi per l'agricoltura. Noi siamo assolutamente contrari alla creazione di questo fondo unico che darebbe troppo potere discrezionale alla Commissione e impedirebbe inoltre agli altri colegislatori di incidere sulle politiche agricole. Mi fa piacere che il Parlamento europeo abbia bocciato questa ipotesi l'altro giorno e devo dire che sono totalmente d'accordo con l'intervento del Presidente portoghese, ma vorrei rafforzare le sue parole che peraltro sono state molto chiare. Si percepisce chiaramente a Bruxelles un cambiamento di clima, le dichiarazioni anche di tutti i membri del Parlamento che ci hanno preceduto oggi vanno in quella direzione. Però è il momento che alle buone parole, che ci fanno piacere, e li ringrazio ancora per questo, è il momento in cui alle parole devono seguire i fatti. Quindi è il momento di mettere i soldi sul tavolo. Non si può continuare a dire che l'agricoltura è strategica, a parlare di sovranità alimentare, a ringraziare gli agricoltori per quello che hanno fatto durante il Covid, per come hanno sopportato gli sconvolgimenti economici che sono seguiti alla guerra in Ucraina, e poi penalizzarli con troppa burocrazia, con una riduzione del budget della prossima PAC. Noi riteniamo che non solo il budget della prossima PAC debba essere conservato, ma debba essere incrementato. Ricordiamoci che negli ultimi anni il budget della PAC è stato ridotto moltissimo. Tutti gli agricoltori che purtroppo in Italia devono ancora finire di ricevere i contributi della PAC del 2024 si stanno rendendo conto di quanto questi tagli hanno influito sui loro bilanci, ma Confagricoltura già più di una volta ha proposto che di fianco ai due pilastri dei pagamenti diretti dello sviluppo rurale si preveda un terzo pilastro che vada a prevedere dei ristori per fronteggiare le calamità naturali e l'instabilità dei mercati. Sono d'accordo, è già stato detto da qualcuno che mi ha preceduto, che comunque i prossimi fondi della PAC devono essere adeguati all'inflazione e devono comunque contenere una rimodulazione in base ai prezzi, che come abbiamo visto possono variare in modo molto negativo per gli agricoltori. Quindi io penso che una PAC forte serva per la stabilità di tutta l'Unione Europea, non solo per la stabilità e la tranquillità economica dei nostri agricoltori. Ci sono altre cose che ci preoccupano in questo quadro e penso che anche un tema d'attualità può essere quello del Mercosur, che va a danneggiare pesantemente molte produzioni dei paesi del Sud Europa, in particolare della carne, del riso, del pollame. Anche qui è stato citato da chi mi ha preceduto, dobbiamo parlare di reciprocità. Non possiamo chiedere agli agricoltori degli sforzi per avere sempre maggiore sostenibilità, ricordando che non c'è sostenibilità sociale o sostenibilità ambientale se prima di queste non c'è sostenibilità economica. Ma reciprocità non vuol dire solo produrre in modi sostenibili come gli agricoltori europei stanno facendo molto bene. Leggevo questa mattina delle statistiche dove si dice che il consumo di fitofarmaci nell'Unione Europea non è mai stato così basso come in quest'ultimo anno. Quindi gli agricoltori europei stanno facendo la loro parte, ma reciprocità secondo me vuol dire anche reciprocità nei modi di produrre. Non possiamo competere con paesi dove i diritti del lavoro sono molto inferiori, i diritti dei lavoratori, a quelli dell'Unione Europea, dove magari vengono sfruttati ancora dei bambini. E so che il Mercosur prevede delle clausole di emergenza, ma innanzitutto non è molto chiaro come queste clausole possano entrare in vigore e io ricordo tutti che da quando esiste l'Unione Europea molto difficilmente siamo riusciti a ottenere la clausola di salvaguardia per tutelare alcune delle nostre produzioni. Ci siamo riusciti nei confronti della Cambogia e del Myanmar per quanto riguarda il riso, ma non è stata data per motivi economici, è stata data per il non rispetto dei diritti sociali e dei lavoratori in quei paesi. Quindi sicuramente questo è un tema di grande attualità e mi auguro che anche se il trattato del Mercosur porta sicuramente dei benefici ad alcuni settori della nostra economia, non si metta l'agricoltura in difficoltà e non si sacrifichi l'agricoltura sull'altare degli interessi di altri settori. Non possiamo non parlare di quello che sta succedendo con i dazi americani, che anche se adesso sono stati congelati, il presidente Trump, che cambia idea molto spesso, ogni tanto ritira fuori queste ipotesi. Io mi auguro per esempio che l'Unione Europea non voglia mettere dei controdazi anche sui vini. Ricordo che l'Unione Europea esporta negli Stati Uniti 5 miliardi all'anno di euro di vino, mentre il vino americano che arriva nell'Unione Europea arriva a stento 300 milioni, quindi sarebbero dei dazi che vanno a penalizzare più i nostri produttori che sicuramente quelli americani. Non credo che possano avere un effetto sufficiente. Bisogna insistere sul dialogo, io non credo che l'arma dei controdazi sia una cosa efficiente per contrastare queste decisioni del governo americano. Ricordiamo che €1 di dazio sui prodotti europei si riversa per €7 di un aumento al consumatore finale americano e che viceversa ogni euro speso per un prodotto o per un vino o per un prodotto della nostra agricoltura crea un indotto in America di oltre $4. Quindi molto ci sarebbe ancora da dire, siamo anche preoccupati sappiamo che sul tavolo ci sono dei trattati di libero scambio anche con l'India, con la Thailandia, si sta ragionando anche con l'Australia. A noi va tutto bene, riprendo le parole del presidente portoghese, non abbiamo paura di competere con gli altri agricoltori, ma dobbiamo poterlo fare ad armi pari e soprattutto con una politica agricola che non si limiti a parole di circostanza nel difendere l'agricoltura, ma lo dimostri con i fatti concreti. Grazie.
Muchas gracias y paso ahora la palabra ya a Luis Mira, que va a hablar en español.
Muchas gracias. Agradecer al diputado Paulo Cabral por esta organización y este apoyo a nuestra iniciativa, a todos los que están aquí conmigo en la mesa, también a Copa y a Elo que están aquí en la sala. Bueno, yo no voy a repetir un poco lo que se ha ya escuchado aquí, todas las cuestiones importantes que tenemos por delante en la cuestión de la agricultura, y me voy a enfocar en una cuestión que toca a todos y que desde el punto de vista estructural Europa puede hacer una buena ayuda, un buen trabajo, y que no lo hace hasta ahora, y es la cuestión de la agua. La agua es un tema muy relevante para el sur de Europa, también para el norte por cuestiones inversas, porque normalmente tiene agua de más, en el sur hay agua de menos. Y eso es una actuación que la Comisión de Europa podía hacer y no lo hace. Se está muy preocupada con el carbono, y nosotros en la agricultura necesitamos de carbono para que las plantas hagan fotosíntesis, y no hace nada con la agua. Es importantísimo que de un punto de vista estructural Europa tenga una legislación para investir en tener más disponibilidad de agua, que no lo tenemos, porque cuando salgo a la calle, todos los europeos se despesan miles de millones de euros para disminuir las emisiones de carbono, más cuando salgo me huele igual. No hay ninguna diferencia, porque los chinos y los americanos continúan haciendo grandes poluciones y Europa solo contribuye con cerca del 6% de las emisiones globales. Más estamos haciendo, no lo entiendo, porque gastamos tanto dinero, porque exigimos tanto de las empresas con esa cuestión y nos olvidamos de agua. Que agua sí, si hacemos más embalses, si hacemos más infraestructuras, si no dejamos que tanta agua va al mar y se quede para una gestión eficiente, los ciudadanos tienen una diferencia en su vida, la agricultura, la energía, la industria, el turismo, todos. Por eso, agua es una cuestión que Europa tiene que investir de otra forma, y que todo lo que inviste en agua en Europa se queda en los ciudadanos europeos. Todo lo que estamos gastando para disminuir las emisiones de carbono, no quedamos nada en Europa, ni conseguimos cambiar el mundo. Intentamos hacer una evangelización del carbono a los chinos y a los americanos, más no quieren ni saber. Cuestión de legislación es importante. Tener un financiamiento dedicado exclusivo al agua, por ejemplo, porque no es un financiamiento que pueda ir a otro lado, no, es solo para mejorar la eficiencia, resiliencia, más capacidad de tener agua. Tenemos en Portugal un ejemplo, me pienso que número 1 en Europa, de cohesión territorial. Van a ver lo que ha ocurrido con el embalse de Alqueva. Miren lo que era antes de Alqueva, miren ahora. La capacidad productiva, el cambio de producciones, el combate a las alteraciones climáticas, todo fruto de un investimiento en agua y en una gestión eficiente de agua. Tiene que haber flexibilidad en las reglas para poder adaptar nuestras realidades del sur a las cuestiones climáticas específicas que tenemos. Tenemos que utilizar tecnología. Todos hablamos de eso. Me voy a decir, no. Nosotros, hasta ahora, todos los países, España, Portugal y todos, se hacen embalses. Más los americanos están recargando acuíferos. Los embalses están debajo del suelo. España tiene acuíferos enormes. Portugal igual. ¿Hacemos alguna nueva tecnología de recargar acuíferos? No. Hay conocimiento sobre eso. Y Europa, si quiere estar en la línea de la frente, tiene que ir con tecnología. Y hasta agua hay aquí. No es solo lo digital, no es solo los sensores, no. Hay técnicas para que estas regiones del sur tengan una disponibilidad de agua mucho mayor, no solo con embalses. El embalse de Alqueva, lo que se evapora todos los años, es la mitad del consumo en agricultura por año. Si fuera un acuífero, eso no se pasaba. Ni tampoco es necesario construir el embalse. Vamos a seguir la técnica, los conocimientos y tenemos si se habla de eso, ambientalistas, será un terremoto. Lo mismo de transvases. Es una palabra que ahora ya se puede utilizar a Portugal, más que tiene que se utilizar en Europa. Hay que sacar la agua del mar, que va directo al mar. Hay ríos que nacen en España y que vienen a Portugal y que solo utilizamos 7%. El río Duero a Portugal se utiliza 7% de la agua que llega al mar. El Tajo, 20%. Y el Guadiana, sí, 70%. Hay mucho para hacer en términos de Europa y en términos de cada país. La cuestión, y dejo claro aquí, la cuestión del agua no es un problema de España ni de Portugal. No, Portugal tiene que hacer su trabajo. España también lo hace, más no hay problemas porque los ríos vienen de España para Portugal. No, se puede arreglar y disfrutar de más agua. Hay que utilizar aguas residuales, todo, hay que utilizar todo, hay que utilizar toda la tecnología disponible. Si no hay agua, no hay agricultura. Si no hay agua, no hay alimento. Hay que decir eso a los políticos, hay que decir eso a los consumidores. Quiere comer una manzana, tiene que haber agua. Puede venir de la lluvia, si no hay lluvia, tiene que venir de otra fuente. Sin agua no hay alimento. Sin alimento no hay vida. Y sin agricultura no hay comunidades rurales, no hay personas, como se ha dicho hoy aquí, en más de 80% del territorio europeo. Tenemos que trabajar juntos, agricultores, comisión, decisores políticos, todas las instituciones europeas, para que agua sea una prioridad de investimento infraestructural. Vamos, en mi opinión, un reto. Dejemos o disminuemos los carbono. Estamos gastando un dinerazo en carbono para nada. Y en agua se queda todo en el territorio. Los ciudadanos lo van a beneficiar. Repito, un fondo, un dinero para investir. El plano del PRR, el plan de recuperación que Europa ha lanzado, Portugal no ha utilizado nada en la agua, casi nada. No puede ser. Era una oportunidad para ganar resiliencia. Lo sé que España lo ha hecho y bien, mas hay que poner dinero solo con ese objetivo. Y para terminar, si no vamos a trabajar ahora, mañana no tenemos soluciones. Muchas gracias.
Andiamo allora, Giuseppe Prandini, prendi la parola.
Grazie Paolo, grazie per l'invito, grazie per l'opportunità che ci date di rappresentare quella che è una strategia che come mondo agricolo del Sud Europa dovremmo iniziare a rappresentare con più forza, con più determinazione. Perché purtroppo è successo negli anni passati che paesi che hanno una capacità produttiva decisamente più bassa rispetto a noi hanno condizionato maggiormente le politiche in Europa. Penso, con tutto il rispetto, ai paesi del nord Europa. E allora da qua bisogna ripartire. In che modo? Con la conoscenza, con l'utilizzo dei dati di carattere scientifico, che possano non essere interpretati in malo modo, come è stato fatto in passato, ma essere lo strumento che, diciamo così, doniamo alla politica perché la politica possa fare scelte consapevoli e lungimiranti. Io vengo da 2 giorni di Farm Europe, dove abbiamo avuto il piacere di ascoltare persone importanti che hanno portato un loro contributo significativo, come Joseph Daul, che è stato presidente del Partito Popolare Europeo per 15 anni, e non solo, anche per 5 anni presidente della Commissione della Comagri, da Cianciolos, che comunque è di area politica diversa, ma comunque ha fatto il commissario all'Europa. Lo stesso nostro oggi commissario Hansen. In tutto questo c'è un qualcosa che stride. Noi oggi stiamo ragionando di come dovrebbe essere la futura politica agricola comune e non sappiamo quante risorse sono destinate alla politica agricola comune. Non si è mai vista una discussione che possa portare a prendere scelte consapevoli senza sapere quello che è il budget che è destinato alla stessa politica agricola comune. Mi spiace dover evidenziare dei dati che non sono confortanti per la nostra agricoltura. Nell'ultimo periodo noi abbiamo perso circa 85 miliardi in termini di valore semplicemente legato al tema dell'inflazione. L'effetto di una maggior disponibilità di risorse economiche destinate all'agricoltura negli ultimi 20 anni dall'Europa ha causato una perdita del 12% del reddito economico dei nostri imprenditori, una perdita di superficie lavorata di 11 milioni di ettari, una minor occupazione, o meglio, agricoltori che hanno smesso di fare gli agricoltori con un meno 37%, ma soprattutto c'è un dato che ci preoccupa, che c'è stato un aumento del 30% in più di debito per quanto riguarda il lavoro che i nostri imprenditori fanno nel loro quotidiano. Perché cito questi dati? Perché noi oggi siamo in uno scenario globale e non possiamo non osservare quello che avviene nelle altre parti del mondo. Gli Stati Uniti investono col Farm Bill 1.400 miliardi di dollari in 10 anni. La Cina ha aumentato la propria capacità di stoccaggio di cereali, dove oggi ne detiene il 60% di quelli che vengono prodotti a livello mondiale. Perché cito questi 2 dati? Perché oggi quando parliamo di cibo e parliamo di agricoltura non parliamo di un settore, ma parliamo di geopolitica, e dove il cibo diventa determinante per l'equilibrio dei continenti. E cosa c'entra tutto questo col Sud Europa? Secondo noi c'entra tantissimo, perché anche in questo caso l'utilizzo e la conoscenza dei dati ci dovrà portare a fare scelte che siano sfidanti, non contro gli agricoltori del Nord Europa, ma basando le scelte su chi realmente fa agricoltura. E allora sotto questo punto di vista dobbiamo evidenziare che il Sud Europa è la parte del nostro continente che produce in modo esponenziale di più rispetto al resto dei territori. È la parte del nostro continente che produce di più in termini occupazionali. È la parte del nostro continente che ha le maggiori caratteristiche qualitative e delle nostre denominazioni, che sono quelle che ci facilitano nelle esportazioni quando andiamo nel mondo. Che cosa ci aspettiamo? Non solo risorse economiche sulla politica agricola comune, ma anche una visione diversa dal passato, ad esempio investendo in export, mi spiego meglio, investendo in comunicazione, investendo in sostegno all'internazionalizzazione, perché la sfida è globale. Parliamo di accordi di libero scambio, però poi ci dobbiamo immaginare anche una strategia di come noi vogliamo essere sugli altri mercati nel mondo. E questo lo potrai fare solo se tu comunicherai quelli che sono quelle caratteristiche che ti distinguono rispetto alle altre agricolture. Noi dobbiamo trasformare una demenzialità che è appartenuta alla precedente commissione, in particolar modo nella figura di Timmermans, che si è dilettato nel strumentalizzare e attaccare l'agricoltura e alcuni settori di questa, penso la zootecnia, senza però dire che la zootecnia europea è la più sostenibile a livello globale, che mentre noi abbiamo ridotto le emissioni del 17% negli ultimi anni, nel resto, o meglio del 25% negli ultimi anni, nel resto del mondo le aumentavano del 17%. Se c'è una cosa che non è delocalizzabile è il clima. E se tu smetti di produrre in Europa e fai produrre di più in quei paesi dove si inquina di più, l'effetto a livello climatico sarà dirompente. E allora la verità e la trasparenza, io penso che potrà fare la differenza se ancora una volta il Sud Europa si unisce, guarda le sfide di traiettoria come quella dell'acqua, perché tante volte giustamente noi parliamo di innovazione, ma la più grande innovazione è avere acqua a disposizione, perché senza acqua noi non produrremo qualità e rischiamo di perdere anche quella biodiversità che caratterizza l'Europa nel resto del mondo. Quindi mi auguro che questo incontro, e ringrazio chi l'ha promosso, sia solo l'inizio di un percorso sfidante anche nei confronti delle altre rappresentanze di altre parti dell'Europa, in un lavoro proficuo con i nostri parlamentari, perché io vengo da una cultura per la quale la politica non va additata, la politica va aiutata a fare scelte consapevoli e mai come in questo momento storico, e mi taccio, noi dobbiamo creare il meccanismo per il quale la politica in Europa fatta dai nostri parlamentari sia e possa essere centrale per le scelte che verranno fatte. Non voglio essere frainteso. Deve finire la stagione per le quali siano le burocrazie a fare le scelte di carattere politico. Noi vogliamo che sia la politica a scegliere che cosa fare, come indirizzare e come guidare il futuro dei nostri settori produttivi. Grazie.
Y ahora para el gran finale, el presidente de los presidentes, Pedro Barato, que es el presidente más antiguo de Europa y quizá del mundo. Pero no se olviden que hay barato para rato, ¿eh? Vamos, Pedro.
Ahora. Bueno, buenas tardes. Gracias por la presentación, Duarte. Has dicho mi edad perfectamente y entonces agradecerte el trabajo, Duarte, a ti y a todos los colegas hoy de las organizaciones del sur de Europa y también saludar a nuestra secretaria general, a Elin, saludar también a nuestros responsables de ELO, que también los tenemos con nosotros aquí. Y de los días que uno viene a Bruselas a trabajar por lo que representamos, hoy es un día muy importante, por lo menos para mí. Llevamos muchos años trabajando en el COPA, en las demás instituciones, pero creo que hoy es un día importantísimo para que Europa y algunos que miran al sur solamente para ir a la playa, que vean que en el sur, desde Grecia, Croacia, Italia, Portugal, España, Francia, hay más que playa y hay más que turismo. Ahí es donde, de mi punto de vista, está la gran reserva de lo que es la alimentación en Europa. Yo no voy a repetir todo lo que han dicho mis colegas porque creo que estamos totalmente de acuerdo en el diagnóstico que se ha hecho. Venimos hoy a hablar de política agrícola común, del futuro de la política agrícola común, pero creo que aquí hay más cosas que política agrícola común. Lo ha dicho Luis, tema del agua, lo ha dicho Eduardo, con el tema de lo que son esas cláusulas de reciprocidad, de lo que hay, los acuerdos comerciales, ha dicho Brandini hace un momento, todos los acuerdos que tenemos por ahí. Hay más cosas aparte de política agrícola común. Yo cuando estaba preparando unas notas, ¿cómo soy yo capaz de transmitir lo que yo pienso como empresario español? Primero, creo que estamos en el seno que si estuviéramos hablando de salud, estaríamos en el hospital. Hoy estamos en el hospital. Y en este hospital nos pueden hacer mucho caso, poco caso o nada de caso y hasta te mueres. Nuestra responsabilidad está en que nos hagan caso. Por eso no puedo entender que todos los eurodiputados, en particular del Grupo Popular, que yo agradezco su presencia y agradezco el trabajo que está haciendo, digan que somos un sector imprescindible, digan que necesitamos un presupuesto más importante que teníamos, digan que la burocracia hay que quitarla, digan lo que nosotros queremos oír y lo que nosotros necesitamos. ¿Por qué no se ponen manos a la obra de una vez? Y todo lo que, yo lo decía ayer, todo lo que estorba en este hospital hay que quitarlo. Hay muchas cosas que estorban. Hay mucho papel que no vale para nada. Hay muchas peticiones a los agricultores europeos que lo único que le hacen es la vida difícil y lo que queremos es que nos hagan la vida fácil. Eso hay que exigirlo aquí en el Parlamento Europeo. Si no lo exigimos aquí, por eso es muy importante que todas las personas que estamos aquí, del sur de Europa, podamos exigir, pero exigir de verdad, parece que nos da miedo a pedir. Yo tengo una frase con los míos que le digo, somos pobres hasta para pedir. No, podemos ser pobres para pedir. Estamos pidiendo un reconocimiento, estamos pidiendo unos hechos, somos la base sólida. Si se carga la política agrícola común, ¿qué va a quedar de Europa? Nosotros no queremos que se cargue la PAC, pero si se carga la PAC, nosotros queremos hacer más Europa a base de tener una PAC mucho más transparente, más seria, con más normalidad, con menos papeles. Lo acabas de decir tú hace un momento. Me exigen una foto georreferenciada en mi explotación. Pero oiga, funcionario europeo, si no tengo internet en mi explotación, ¿cómo voy a hacer la foto georreferenciada? Hay situaciones por las cuales nosotros tenemos la obligación de exigir. Y por eso, tú lo decías, tenemos que exigirle a nuestros políticos que parece que tienen miedo de defender la agricultura. Hemos pasado una etapa donde todo era Timerman, todo era Timerman. En España era la señora Rivera. Todo dependía de ellos. Hemos tenido que venir a Europa a decir que los lobos se comen nuestras ovejas, que no nos hacen vivir, que no nos dejan vivir, que un lobo en España tenía más derechos que una oveja o que el propio ganadero. Eso sí, se han comido los ponis de la señora von der Leyen. Entonces ya nos hacen caso, entienden que los lobos hacen mal a la ganadería europea. Creo que es importante que todos estos mensajes queden hoy aquí, porque son situaciones en las cuales ¿qué sector o qué funcionario del Parlamento Europeo aceptaría que la inflación le rebaje el sueldo al 16%? Nosotros sí, nosotros lo aceptamos. No es posible. El presupuesto como mínimo tiene que llevar el incremento de la inflación que hemos sufrido durante este tiempo. Y no podemos aceptar que haya un único fondo y que encima de ese fondo se lo demos a los gobiernos nacionales para que hagan lo que quieran. No hará nada para los agricultores, harán para otros que son más que nosotros. Por eso es muy importante el que los fondos se sigan manteniendo y que los fondos vayan, desde mi punto de vista, tienen que ir a la agricultura profesional y al agricultor profesional. No se puede hacer. En España teníamos 1 millón de peticiones de PAC. Vamos por 580, 590.000. Pero profesionales de verdad, en torno a 280.000. Y hay que separar el grano de la paja. El pequeño agricultor tiene un factor determinante en el futuro. Pequeño agricultor. No pequeño propietario que no vive de esto. Hay que hacer la diferencia porque si no nos meten a todos en el mismo saco. Un agricultor en España con 2 hectáreas en la provincia de Almería es más grande que en mi tierra con 200 hectáreas. Pero es un profesional de la agricultura. Eso es lo que nosotros tenemos que defender. Hay situaciones en las que hoy tenemos que decir a Bruselas que ya no es política de precios, es política de costes. Pero hay que decir en el Parlamento que no entendemos cómo quieren poner aranceles a mi aceite de oliva, al aceite de oliva portugués, al aceite de oliva italiano, al aceite de oliva griego, al aceite de oliva del sur de Europa. Quieren poner un arancel en Estados Unidos. Pero hoy, aquí, se está votando poner un arancel al fertilizante que tenemos que importar de Rusia para abaratar nuestros costes de producción. ¿Quién entiende que hay que poner un arancel a lo que produzco y quién entiende que hay que poner un arancel a lo que yo necesito para producir? En este hospital se tienen que dar cuenta que si nosotros caemos, faltará, tal vez misiles no faltarán, pero faltará el misil de la alimentación. Y están jugando con el misil de la alimentación. Y es importante que aquí digamos que no se puede jugar con la alimentación. Y tienen que decirlo no más fuerte, pero sí más claro. Y hoy lo diremos al comisario. Déjense ustedes de jugar aquí. Y, oye, y ha cambiado mucho esto, ¿eh? Que desde que veníamos de la otra comisión a esta ha cambiado mucho. Por lo menos nos atienden, nos escuchan. No sé si nos darán la razón o no, pero trabajándola seguro que sí nos la van a dar. Por tanto, es muy importante el que veamos las cosas en este Parlamento de otra forma. Y luego creo que hay 2 factores que no son tampoco del presupuesto de la PAC. Uno, tenemos un problema estructural con la falta de mano de obra fundamentalmente en el sur, para el campo europeo. Mano de obra que necesitamos y que por políticas absurdas no somos... La inmigración no es un problema, queridos amigos, para el campo, por lo menos en España. La inmigración es una solución. Pero lo que no podemos tener es personas que tienen derecho a estar en nuestros pueblos, que tienen derecho a estar en nuestras zonas rurales, pero por un papel no tienen derecho a trabajar. No es posible que estemos permanentemente 1 año, 2 años esperando a que esa gente se merece trabajar. Y luego las reformas que estamos haciendo, se están haciendo reformas totalmente en contra del sector agrario. Y por último, deciros que creo que se habla mucho de la ley de la cadena, se habla mucho de sostenibilidad, hay algo que es una palabra que yo no voy a reemplazar nunca, que es rentabilidad. No hablemos de jóvenes, podemos hablar de jóvenes, pero si no tienen rentabilidad no van a venir a trabajar al campo. Si no tenemos rentabilidad en lo que hacemos, al final tomaremos decisiones. Rentabilidad. Y la rentabilidad se hace con unos precios normales. Estoy viendo en estos momentos ejemplos en países del sur donde no puede ir la industria por un lado y los agricultores por otro. No pueden ir las cooperativas por un lado. No. El valor añadido se tiene que quedar en un reparto, por lo menos 1/3 para el que lo produce, 1/3 para el que lo transforma y 1/3 para el que lo vende. Si no jugamos en una cadena limpia y transparente, no podemos ir a esa situación. Señores, hoy personalmente, lo decía Duarte, puedo ser el más antiguo, puedo ser el de más edad, pero lo estoy haciendo con la misma ilusión, Duarte, que conocí a todos tus presidentes y a este señor que siempre me ha ayudado mucho aquí en Bruselas. Si el sur nos unimos como estamos unidos ahora mismo, seremos capaces de trabajar por un futuro mucho más cierto y por un sur que de luego no lo merecemos. No lo merecemos. Muchas gracias.
Un discurso lleno de simbología. Muchas gracias, Pedro. Bien, ahora vamos a cambiar todo. Tenemos la Comisión Europea, tenemos la ELU y tenemos la Copa Cogeca. And Pierre Bascu from the Commission, of course. We'll move to there, Pierre. Okay. Let's focus again. The lunch is waiting. The lunch is waiting, so we will start right now with the program proposed. We heard already the MEPs, then the voice of the national organizations, and now we want to hear the European Commission and our umbrella organizations, COPA and ELO. And I want to thank to Mrs. Lauretti. Thank you very much for coming and to attend our conference. Thank you very much. So Pierre, it's up to you right now. The farmers want to hear you.
Okay. Good morning. It's already lunchtime, so I don't know if it is the morning or the afternoon, but I think good morning, everybody. And first of all, I think thank you very much, I think, for your very kind, invitation. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm really impressed because this is the first time in my 20 years of career that Duarte is on time. So for a conference, so I fully appreciate that. So most seriously, I would like to, first of all, I think, being, from the south of France, I would like, first of all, to say that I am very pleased, I think, to participate, I think, to this conference about agriculture in the south of Europe. I'm fully appreciate, I think, the importance of the farm sector, from this part of Europe to European agriculture, but also I'm very conscious about, I think, the significant, contribution that, Southern agriculture has made, I think, to Europe, and in particular in terms of quality product. I would avoid, I think, opposing, the quality of Southern product, I think, with Northern product. I think what I believe is a richness and the wealth, I think, of European agriculture is a diversity and the complementarity. So this is very important, I think, to underline. But clearly, and I think it has been said, I think, by the previous speakers, agriculture in Southern Europe, faces, specific challenges, specific, structure. And this is why I think the theme of my intervention, talking about, whether the CAP tools are appropriate and sufficient in order to make, I think, the sector, profitable, is very relevant, and is very relevant in terms of both, availability of policy instruments and policy funding, but it is important, I think, to look at the use. And I think sometimes, we, at least I think from the Commission side, I think we regret that despite I think the wide range of policy tools which exist in the common agricultural policy, not all these tools are properly used at national, if not regional level, in order to address best the needs I think of the farmers. I will start I think by saying a few words regarding I think the current set of tools I think before moving to the future CAP discussion. Clearly now, I think the CAP strategic plan have a wide range, I think, of policy instruments to support, I think, the efficiency of agricultural activity and also to support, I think, the profitability of the sector. I will not enumerate them, too long. I think there's a lot of income support that are there, in order to support the income situation and the economic situation of farmers. There is also capital support, this kind of sectoral support that is very important in Southern Europe for specific production. There are, of course, I think all the support that are granted in order to help and promote, investment, innovation, cooperation among farmers. And I would like also to underline what is being used, I think, and the main type of support in the fruit and vegetable sector and in the wine sector, meaning the operational program and the sectoral intervention. These are very important, specific tools that are primarily used in the south of Europe, and they have shown, I think, the performance and the capacity, in supporting the sector and developing the sector over the medium term. Clearly, and I think this is what I heard, I think, from Luis, I think from Mr. Mira, before, there are some specific challenges to which I think the agricultural sector is faced with, in the south of Europe. The first one is climate change and water scarcity, which are critical challenge that demand, really urgent action. And clearly, climate change is making the issue of water scarcity even worse, I think, day by day. And this is threatening, I think, our capacity to ensure production. This is threatening, I think, the long-term, production potential in these regions of Europe. It is also, threatening the quality, I think, of the product that can be produced. And this is why different types of elements of policy instruments are available, I think, within the CAP, in particular within the strategic plan, in terms of support for investment, for modernization, for sustainable irrigation, for supporting the undertaking of production methods which are more efficient, I think, in terms of water use. There are also many policy instruments which are available in order to better manage risk and better manage crisis in the CAP. And I would insist on the fact that, unfortunately, not all these instruments are properly used or are even used, I would say, to court, by some member states. And I think this is a real issue for us. I would like also to mention that the Commission is going to launch within the next few, I would almost say days or if not weeks, a new strategy regarding the water resilience. And this will be important in order to reduce, I think, water waste, in order to reduce water over abstraction and to reduce also water pollution. It's a question of sustainable management of our water resources over the long term. But of course, in terms of agriculture, since agriculture is the main user of water in many southern regions, I think this is also important in order to guarantee food security and the production capacity of our agriculture over the medium term. I listen very carefully to Luis, always listen carefully to Luis. And Luis mentioned that I think not a single euro had been spent, I think, on irrigation. But when I was preparing, I think, my intervention, I realized that I think Portugal, the public authorities have planned, I think, to use more than 154 million euro, I think, in modernization of irrigation systems on farm, but also, I think, of infrastructure. Maybe it's not yet implemented, and I think this is one of the issues that I was mentioning. But I realized that I think in looking at this, and in particular in Portugal, I think the public authorities are using not only the common agricultural policy tools in order to address, I think, the need to improve the irrigation system, but they use also other types of funds, I think regional development programs, and also the RRF, I think this resilient and recovery fund. And this is extremely, I think, important because it's not only the CAP. The CAP is a pillar, I think, in terms of the promotion and support for agriculture, for sustainability, competitiveness, profitability. But I think it is important also to broaden the scope of policy support that can be accessible, I think, to the farm sector, and this will be even more important, I think, in the future. In order to manage water-based water, over the long term, it will be also important at the level of the farm sector to define, I think, I would say, climate adaptation strategy and a water strategy, because it is also about, it's not only a question of finding funding in order to improve, I think, the use of water. It's also, a question of choosing and identifying, I think, the sectors, the production methods, the varieties, the crops, etc., upon which I think, the regions in the south of Europe, I think, will have to invest, because clearly in some parts of Europe, and I'm coming, as I said, I think, from the Catalan part, I think, of France, I think just on the other side of the Pyrenees, we have major problems, I think, of drought. This is not the first year, it's the fifth year in a row, and clearly, the farming sector there, is reflecting about, a long-term strategy and long-term adaptation, I think, of the sector. So going beyond, I think, the irrigation, but I think, in terms of a choice of production system and crops, and this will be very important, I think, to look at that. The other element that I wanted to mention quickly, because I realize, I'm fighting against time and against lunch. So this is, we were talking about agriculture and food, so we'll not talk too long. One element which is also specific and characteristic of the south of Europe, but this is going north, unfortunately, I would say, is the impact of climate change and the impact of extreme weather events. And we see that, everywhere in Europe, but in particular, I think, in the south of Europe. And very clearly, we need, I think, to strengthen, I think, the availability of tools, I think, for farmers to manage risk, to develop, better prevention strategy first, but also to better manage, I think, crises when a crisis occur, how to best, have access, I think, to funds in order to compensate farmers, partially or totally, and not only, I think, for the lost crops or the lost animals, but also for the lost production factors, and in order to recover, I think, their activity. And clearly, the Commission and DG Agri in particular for the last 2 or 3 years have put in place a whole set of instruments in the second pillar. I think I've used, I think, the agricultural reserve, etc. All this is very nice and is very helpful in the short term, but clearly over the medium term, I think we need to improve the manner by which I think we look at this in prevention and in correction, I would say, and in support, I think, for farmers. And this will be, I think, a critical element for the future CAP. Talking about the future CAP, I would like to say a few words regarding, I think, the policy framework, and maybe to start, I think, by talking a bit about the vision that has been presented by the Commission in February, so a few weeks ago. Vision about the agricultural sector, but also about the food sector, and this is something that I would like to underline. Our Commissioner Hansen, our Commissioner used to be called Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Development. Now, Mr. Hansen is a Commissioner for Agriculture and Food, and this is very important because we want to broaden the discussion, the policy framework, and the long-term perspective we want to define and design and implement for the farm sector within the whole food supply chain, because clearly we will not have a strong, profitable, competitive, whatever you want, agriculture if we don't have, value chain, which is also competitive, sustainable, and resilient. And clearly this vision, you have all read it, I'm sure, and I hope I would recommend, I think, to read this document. It's a short document, but I think for me, what is most important in this vision, we have reasserted the strategic importance of agriculture. In particular, in this difficult time and conflictual time in Europe and at global level, it is important that agriculture and the food sector, the agri-food chain, is seen again as a strategic asset, as part of our sovereignty and part of our prosperity. And in terms of political message, this is very important. I know that over the last 5 years, there were some concerns and resentment, expressed toward, I think, the Commission and the views that, the Commission, I think, may have put forward, I think, regarding, I think, the role of agriculture and the food sector and food security. But clearly with this vision, we want to make sure that, I think, no mistake is made. I think agriculture is a strategic sector and is a strategic sector for our security at large. Not only food security, but our security. This is extremely important. Talking about the future CAP, yes, I think the future CAP the Commission will put forward some proposals, I think, for the future CAP. I think the current strategic plan regulation ends at the end of, being applying, at the end of 2027. So we need to put forward, a new regulation for the future CAP. Clearly, I think this new regulation will be very closely linked to the discussion of the budget. And some of you, I think, have already referred to that. The Commission is meant in the summer to present its proposal, I think, for the multi-annual financial framework, not only concerning the CAP, but I think the whole policy for the whole, EU policies. And the Commission is committed, I think, to present, I think, its legal proposal for agriculture at the same time or a bit later, over the summer. There were some dates being floated around, I think on the 16th of July. I think nothing is confirmed yet. So I'm insisting, I think this will be over the summer and we will have to see, I think, when this will take place. What I can say is that in the MFF discussion and in the vision discussion, the CAP, the Common Agricultural Policy, is and will remain, I think, the fundamental pillar in the promotion and the support, I think, of agriculture within the agri-food sector and for agriculture, for its competitiveness, for its resilience, and for its sustainability, and for its profitability. So CAP will be the main pillar. But as I said, we need also to go and to see also beyond in order to support the bioeconomy, etc., etc. What I would like to say is that I think we are preparing, I think, the CAP legal proposal. What we will have, I cannot, of course, and you will understand that, say too much about it. What I can tell you is that it will be simpler as what we have currently. This morning, I think the College of Commissioners adopted a new set of simplification package, and a simplification package which is very ambitious, not only looking at the environmental requirement, but going beyond and looking at simplifying also the access to public funding in order to boost the competitiveness and resilience, I think, of farmers. But I think the CAP, the future CAP, will be even more simple. It will be more targeted. I heard, I think, that there were some requests, I think, for targeting the CAP support, I think, to professional farmers or to active farmers. This is a direction of travel that we want to take. We want also to reduce, I think, the level of requirements and to turn them into and convert them into, incentive. And also what we will aim at is to ensure that we don't enter into a revolution, but rather an evolution. The farm sector is a sector where we invest, over the medium term and long term. Farmers need predictability and visibility, and it will be important that I think we don't revolutionize the place, every 7 years. I talk about simplification. I will not dwell too much. We can come back, I think, if you want. We can come back on that if you want at a later stage. So last point I would like to mention is about trade. Trade, which is very often depicted, I think, as a difficulty and the constraints, as a weakness, I think, for the agri-food sector. There, I would like also to emphasize that I think trade, agricultural trade, and the openness of our market and our capacity to export is part and a very significant part, I think, of our prosperity. We are the largest exporter at world level of agri-food product. We have a huge trade surplus, only second, I think, to Brazil. We are very competitive in many sectors, dairy, in part, I think, of the meat sector, in cereals, in wine, in olive oil, in a lot of products which are produced in Europe, and not only in Europe, I think, in the south of Europe. So it is important, I think, to continue building on that and reinforcing, I think, this trade performance. Having said that, I think we're not naive. And clearly, now that I think we have more and more free trade agreement and more openness, I think, to global markets, we will have also to ensure more reciprocity in the level of production standard of the product, I think, which can be imported into the EU. I think this will be fundamental. And I can assure you that I think on the trade part, I think given the, what can I say, current, difficulties and trade friction that I think we are encompassing, with some of our, key trading partners, we are extremely vigilant, I think, to protect not only our producers and exporters, but also our consumers, because we do import a lot of consumer goods. And I think the level of food prices is of significant concern for us. I could talk about Ukraine, Mercosur, but clearly, we are engaged into, a wide, I would say, network of negotiation. Many of them will be profitable, I think, for the farm sectors and for the sectors which will be more vulnerable. like beef, I think like sheep, etc. I think I can assure you that I think we will be extremely vigilant, I think, to ensure that some safeguards, some limitation, some a good frame, openness, I think will be put in place so that I think we can really benefit from that. So maybe just my last word. I think you asked me to say if the Duarte, if you still listen to me, that if the CAP tools, I think, were sufficient to ensure the profitability of the farm sector, I would say yes. They need to be reinforced. They need to be better used. They need to be better tailored, I think, to the specific needs of the farming sector. But I'm sure that at the same time, given, I think, the challenges, I think the climate change, the crisis, I didn't talk about animal disease, but this is a part, I think, of the challenge that we will face. These tools also, we need to be adapted and framed to really meet, I think, the needs of our farmers, because clearly competitive, sustainable and resilient farmers and farming sector and agro-food industry is of primary importance, I think, for us at Commission level, but also, I think, for the EU citizen in this difficult time. And of course, I think the southern part, I think, of Europe, has a very active and important role to play in this context. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Pierre. You are always very kind. This was the first round. Don't forget, on the 11th of June, we'll have another conference. But in Portugal, we are all invited, already. And but we know more delays and confirmed. But we know more delays. I will give the floor to Thierry de l'Escala. I don't know if you agree with Pierre or not, if the tools are enough. I have an idea, but I can say it. So it's up to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, I will pick some of the idea you have expressed, and I feel a bit unsatisfied in the way that you are a bit vague, Pierre. You keep things on after the scheme, and it's a bit strange for me. But the first one, and I heard many of the presidents pointing that out, is about the succession of capping, the aggressivity and redistribution we have been facing this term. It has been also painful for professional farmers, depending from countries to countries. But and I was pleased to hear you saying that you will concentrate on professional farmers, although all the narrative is concentrating on the one who need it. And here we have some concerns, because where does it come from? It comes from a paper from the Green NGOs preparing the strategic dialogue, and they were thinking, how can we arm the agricultural sector in a way that is not harming environment? Well, the idea and the concept of the Green NGOs in the non-paper circulating among themselves was that very small farmers, less than 5 hectares, do not have the opportunity to buy insumos, to buy fertilizers, to buy pesticides, and those are the ones who are not harming the environment. When professional farmers are harming it one way or the other. And this is, of course, a concern for us, because we believe that professional farmers who are driving the land, who are managing the land, offer much more opportunities for protecting environment. They can dedicate part of their action in terms of protecting the environment, and to take that in terms of corporate social responsibility, what is not exactly what was the case of the view of these NGOs. So we mean that you have to be extremely cautious with this terminology. Is it a social policy? The view of, is it supporting an economic sector, which is a socio-economic sector? So the choice is a bit between environmental social policy of an agricultural policy. We believe, and what we have heard today, this is an agricultural policy, and we stay strong on this. Another element I want also to pick up is about trade. You speak about, yes, the mirror clause of the fairness. We all do agree, but I believe that we should also be fair towards our partners from the Mercosur and look what they are trying to do, what they are trying to develop. So we have to find a fair balance. But then, in order to do that, we need also to be put in the same condition. You know, in order to have a new access to a new technology in Europe, with the rules of the Commission, it takes more than 10 years and it costs much too much. In Brazil, the same technology will be agreed after 2 years. In the US, I think, if I'm not wrong, it's 3.5 years. So we are put, it's not our responsibility of farmers, but you put us with your commission into difficulty. So we have to think about the rules and to think about how to be put in a fair situation. Then also, I want to pick about, you said, and I was not reassured, that the CAP will stay a pillar of what? Is it still a single fund? You have in mind of what we want is to have our fund as in the past. It is totally unfair to mix all policies in a single fund because we, the European Union, is responsible for the only common policy, the agricultural policy. And it's normal that it is paid by, largely supported by European funds because it's the only common policy. But with a single fund, you want to put in the same fund expenses to be supported by member states from other origins. And so you mix completely and you will dilute our support. And here I really warn you, we will not accept it because it is unfair, it is not respecting. I'm speaking about, my 3 points are speaking about respect to farmers, respect for what we are doing and we are defending, and its fairness and respect. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thierry. And we know that in the European Landowners Organization, we work a lot on these issues, but with Copa-Cogeca too, Elite Furo, it's the Secretary General of Copa-Cogeca. You think the tools are enough? We can do more. We can ask for more. Like Pedro Borato said, we are poor even to ask. Thank you, Ellie.
Thank you, Duarte. Dear members of the Parliament, dear presidents, dear colleagues, a pleasure and an honor to be here. Well, one can make the connection. It's a Southern organization's event. She's Greek. Well, I'm proud to be Greek, but I think that I'm a bit more proud to take this important role as Secretary General of Copa and Cogeca, to represent this big family, this big community, the united voice of European farmers and agri-cooperatives, with its long history, with its representativeness today from the south to the north, from the east to the west, for the democratic and inclusive way in which we work, for the force that we are in Brussels, for the recognition that we have from the institutions due to our history and our professionalism. So a great pride. And I must say that all this work is due to our members, and I would like to praise the work of all the organizations that are present here today. You are a part of this force, and you are among our most engaged members. So to reply to the question of this panel, I think that the question that we all, and I would like to join Thierry in his last comments, that we all ask ourselves, all the farming community in Copa and Cogeca right now is, do we have a CAP? Do we have a policy? And we don't have a clear answer on this. And what we hear, and well, Pierre, here you are the representative of the Commission, but we know that a lot is being prepared at the level of DG Budget, at the level of the Commission President, Cabinet, and we lack clarity. We hear very worrisome scenarios. We hear scenarios like we would lose the second pillar, and I don't think I need to explain to this audience how important, how fundamental the second pillar of the policy is, that we might not even have security, meaning ring fencing for the first pillar, cutting the policy in bits and pieces and diluting it, as you rightly said, Thierry, in the single fund. This is an idea that we very strongly oppose for many reasons. It's far beyond agriculture. It's far beyond our sector. It's about the stability of the food chain. It's about food security. It's about the single market. It's about our EU values. Losing the CAP would mean losing the core, the heart of what the EU is. It is the single common policy of the European Union. And in COPA and COGECA, we will do everything in our power to defend it and to avoid to have a proposal on the table in July that would start with a very negative scenario for the policy. Then, when it comes to the CAP proposals, having these questions around make us question how mature are we to lead this discussion, to be consulted on which scenarios are we working as a sector. So a lot of questions there. And as COPA and COGECA, it has been on our social media, so I think I can say it publicly as well. Next Tuesday, we will start escalating our actions. Next Tuesday, we are going to be together here in Brussels to demonstrate how strongly we oppose this idea. Then, is the CAP, if we manage, and we will do everything to have the policy safe and solid and with enough an adequate and dedicated budget for the future. But is the CAP enough? Of course, the CAP is not enough, and it cannot take all the burden for all the complex challenges that we face. So, of course, we need synergies and transition and support in order to be able to achieve the balanced transition from the economic and environmental and the social side. So we need further support, and this is something that we clearly asked in our vision paper, where we worked collectively as COPA and COGECA and published it to contribute to the vision published by Commissioner Hansen before the Christmas break. So we strongly defended for further support from other funds in order to be able to continue in the pathway of the transition. But we also need much more. We need tools. We need tools. What we see today, and many of the presidents here today, they mentioned it, we lack tools. We lack plant protection. The active substances that we lost in the last years, I mean, our farmers cannot work. So we're happy to see in the vision this principle of no ban without alternatives, and we hope that you will work towards this direction. Biocontrol, so all the solutions that need to be there. We need innovation. NGTs was mentioned. We need this in order to be able to be profitable, to tackle the very complex challenges of climate change. We need digitalization. My Greek members, they mentioned the efforts that they do at the national level. We need, I mean, we all understand, and it is a clear position of COPA and COGECA that digitalization is the path to follow. But the question right now is, how can we make it accessible to all European farmers? And not only this innovation, all the different sets of innovation. We need infrastructure. You all mentioned how water infrastructure is important. And this is part of our work, the collective work within our contribution that we are preparing to the water resilience strategy. So a fundamental part of this strategy. We also need more balance and fairness and transparency in the food chain. So a key ask on behalf of our community. And let me end with the trade question, with reciprocity. Of course, we are here, we are very happy to see in the vision this principle taken, and also alongside the impact assessments. Because here, what we face as a community and what we have been asking for long is for the Commission to treat trade in a strategic way and to tell us what would be the cumulative impact of trade on our sector. So not looking in the trade deals in silos, but on the overall impact. Because what we see is that with the mounting pressure that we have, and Mercosur is a clear case, the same sectors that are under pressure in Mercosur, they're under pressure with Ukraine, they will be under pressure in future trade deals in Thailand. So the question is, are we pushing certain sectors to extinction? So this is a strategic question that we ask from the Commission, and this is a reason of principle why COPA and COGECA, for the first time in their long history, oppose publicly and united a deal, a trade deal. So I think I will stop here. I could say a lot more, but I think the message is conveyed. It is a very political moment. It is a moment where we need, as a community, to make the Commission understand that protecting, defending, supporting agriculture is protecting, defending, supporting EU citizens and EU security as a whole. And in that sense, we are fully aligned with the new priorities set by the European Commission. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ellie. I think it's the first time that we finish with a 5 minutes delay, 9 minutes delay. Okay. Was very, very nice. Thank you very much, Pierre. Thank you very much, Thierry. Thank you very much, Ellie. Thank you very much for all the presidents and for the MEPs. They strictly in the timetable set. So I only want to say 2 more things. It's please keep the badges. We'll leave now to have lunch near here, 250 meters at Atelier 29. And please, it's near Copacogeca, the place. You already, everyone has the address, right? Okay, very well. So one more thing, please bear in mind that we will have 1 hour with the commissioner, 15 minutes for a photo shoot, and then each president has 3 minutes to make the speech. 3 minutes, please. And then the commissioner will present the package. The commissioner right now is presenting the package, but we don't need to see and watch because he will present to ourselves later. So thank you very much, and let's have lunch.